Pleasure to get acquainted with you, Mr. Ron James. What's up, all the people in the chat? I see you, Exoskeleton. So yeah, welcome to the show. This is Bridge the Gap. My name is Holden Stephan Roy, and basically what we do here is we walk through the lives of interesting people such as yourself, and then via the journey of your life, extract knowledge nuggets and learn some shit. Mm-hmm. That's what we do in a nutshell. So as we've evolved our stuff a little bit, it would be great if you could just kind of introduce yourself right quick and kind of just tell the people where you were born. It doesn't matter where you journeyed to, but where you were born and started the journey.
Okay. I'm from Northeast Baltimore City. I am what else? I'm from there. What do I do? I'm a creative. We're
gonna cover all the creative types.
Okay. Yeah, so I do a bunch of stuff. So I'll just say that I'm a creative. I mean, like that's not even like a loose term. I'm not particularly good at anything, but I do a bunch of stuff.
I'm sorry, but your pen game has wit.
Oh man, thank you, man.
I heard you drop some like dimes between class bar, and I'm like, that shit could have been weed or girls. That's a double.
Yeah, man. I'm into entendres, and okay, so yeah. I'm a creative in Baltimore. I champion Baltimore. I don't live in Baltimore City proper anymore, but we just moved a couple months ago. But I spent a large chunk of my time in Baltimore City. So awesome. And I try to do all creative things there.
Yeah, I was gonna say the guy's music's podcast. He did comedy according to his Instagram. He does like a bunch of shit. Like he's not even lying. I had to put multimedia artist because like artist didn't feel like it was enough to cover all the non-typical arty shit. You have to say multimedia to include podcasts and crap. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Anyway, very talented individual, but also real smart. I was bumping your shit today because I'm like, fuck, he does interviews. I should bump one. Oh, shit, he's real smart and entertaining to listen to with the homeboy. And then I like your little intro before the guest comes on and shit. And it's like, you got a whole vibe to it. I'm like, dude is mad talented. And we're going to hear about the whole parts of all the different things you do based on how this works. So we're going to start with a little intro question. Really, the most important part is where you're from because of this question and how it all goes. Also, you have such a crisp radio voice. But
thanks, man.
So it's a bit of a story, this question, and when it lands, you can kind of like, answer it however you so feel to answer it. And it starts with my girlfriend, and she's like washing the dishes, and she's got her phone, and she's playing that Black Eyed Peas track, the I got a feeling, ooh.
All right.
And she's dancing, and she's vibing and stuff, and this is late 2020. So as I'm sitting here watching her do this, I'm considering and pondering on this very song and how this is chores music. Or exercise music, or like this vibe of life. But that song, I could remember how 10 years ago we were all really drunk in like bars and clubs dancing around to that same very song. And I just thought it was such a huge juxtaposition how it could go from being kind of like this thing that you would go out and it would be like the highlight of the night when everyone's having the best time, and now it's the highlight of washing dishes when you're trying to scrub some stuff off the pan. And it's like, that's serious, right? So as I've asked this question, my theories have evolved a bit. But basically, it's like, as people, these songs that we have that are attached to us in this clubbing era of life end up becoming the exercise and chores music of life later on. So that means that music, as it grows with us, kind of evolves in its purpose and along the journey that it goes on with us. So it's almost like songs have their own little journeys that they go on. Which is also fun to think about. That a whole bunch of people are doing dishes to Cardi B, and a whole bunch of people clubbing today going to be doing dishes and having no idea that this is where their music life is taking them. But when we think about like musical journeys and stuff, and we talk about it in like our lives, we often go to the adolescent phase and like that part, because this is where we form our identities and we start picking these favorite songs and all this kind of stuff. Now, it's not like a hard rule, but typically that's where the story kind of starts because it's more defined. But really when it comes to music and our musical journeys, it starts at like the earliest you can even remember, because like you're always going to hear sounds in your life. So like I can remember like being like 3-4 years old, maybe a little older, and my dad had these gray boxes in the apartment, and the amp and the radio deck and the fucking tape deck and everything kind of attached to each other, and bring it out to the speakers that he would set up all over, and he would be blasting his Led Zeppelin tapes and shit like that. Or at night it would be the 90s techno music that was on the radio and the clubs and whatnot. My mom had like discos and musicals and different things that she was really fucking with. But really, like, because of the technology and the times and eras, it was like these were kind of like the sounds that like made up my childhood experiences. Like every Christmas we had this techno Christmas music remix album. We only ever heard it at Christmas time, and it was every fucking Christmas time. So like I was hoping you could bring us back to like when you were the youngest Ron James you could remember, and walk us a little bit what it was like to like the sounds and stuff before you had control over it in your environment.
So unfortunately I can't remember when I didn't have control over it, but I remember the first time that I could recognize music as a thing that I wanted to listen to over and over again. So my mom used to teach at the aquarium in Baltimore. My mom and my dad are educators. And one day we were in the aquarium because I used to just be in the back. Like I was behind the scenes. I used to go to the dolphin shows when people couldn't go to the dolphin shows. It was a nice life. And I was sitting down, and there was a song called Baby Beluga that I remember from when I was a kid. Baby Beluga in the Deep Blue Sea was the beginning thing. I remember how vivid that was to me. I was like, Baby Beluga in the Deep Blue Sea. Like I could recognize, it was the first song that I listened to that was vivid for me. And it was just about a beluga in the water swimming. All the things that I took in at a really young age dealt with water, because my mom studied marine biology when she was younger. So we were in like this in the hood, but I was like obsessed with like runoff and like, you know, bodies of water, and you know, it's oceans and sea creatures. So Baby Beluga is probably the first song that I heard that like fucked me up. I know it's like a weird thing.
You actually answered it like really great. It's not really about your favorite song. It's more about how you studied water and shit. We're just trying to get you to talk about some cool childhood shits, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's fucking ridiculously dope that you were able to get that water on, and you would be like out there as a young one running around Baltimore studying water as a young scientist.
It was interesting because like it taught me a very valuable lesson about like poverty and shit. Like we were still in the hood, so like my childhood was super weird because like my dad went to Princeton and dropped out, and we were like in the hood getting Princeton reviews, and I was like, I was always taught based on TV shows that people that went to these places were rich, and I'm like, but I hear gunshots outside. I'm like in this place, and it really gave me this idea that like things didn't guarantee you prosperity. Like people, it was like who you were as a person and your drive, and sometimes luck, a lot of luck. But it fucked up the way that I thought about like Ivy League schools and education and where it put you and ranking in the world. And because I had, you know, you always hear like, oh, you're at an Ivy League school, you should be rich, you should be swimming in water. And we were
facts,
like,
though.
We were in Northeast Baltimore listening to gunshots and stepping on syringes in the gutter. But it was an incredible life. I really enjoyed my childhood. That was like really very special. A lot of the music that I heard was outside. Like I experienced music outside on the block. So like I'd be outside. The first song, so Baby Beluga was the first, right? The second one that hit me like a ton of bricks was Electric Relaxation by a Tribe Called Quest. I was outside playing. I remember this vividly. I was playing basketball, and like we lived in this. Anybody that knows Baltimore, there's like these like super narrow blocks, right? Where it's like one way in, one way out. and mine led to like a field beside my house where all this crazy shit happened. But Tribe Called Quest played that sample. Somebody was playing it with the top down, blaring it, and I was like, "What is this? What is this song? What is it doing?" Sonically, didn't sound like anything I'd ever heard before, and he was talking about sexual stuff, and I didn't know how it impacted me because I fucking love A Tribe Called Quest and Midnight Marauders, and that Baby Beluga started it. And then the Tribe Called Quest like cracked my head open. That's a weird way to say it, but it like incited all these thoughts about sound and music. Say that again. I'm so sorry.
How old were you when you heard that Tribe Called Quest song?
It was right when it came out. So I'm washed up, man. So don't. Let me see. Because I gotta do it. Yeah. When did that come out?
I'll tell you in a second.
So that was 93. I was 10 years old.
All right, so basically of the Baby Beluga, then let's say at 10 years old, it cracks your head open. And before we get to the cracking your head open, we do have to ask you a couple more questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you at all interested in the dancing world as a little one, and the theatrics and all of that stuff?
I mean, I was really very obsessed with like songs that were in like cartoons and stuff, like Disney movies and stuff like that. But no, I mean, like, I did like the idea of things breaking out. I mean, I really did like Grease. So Grease and Jesus, the one about so Grease, Little Shop of Horror. I fucking love Little Shop of Horror. And let me think.
Yeah, I love the fact that you're willing to just bust out the fucking Google on the next monitor and bringing it. That's some fucking A-game shit. I love it.
Let me think, man. Like, Hairspray. Hairspray, because it took place in Baltimore. So I had I have an obsession with like Baltimore-based things. And Hairspray was crazy because I watched it on TV, but it was about where I lived at, but in a different time. It's racist now, but it was real racist then. Like, especially racist. It's like I love that kind of like excellent get out of here, black, that kind of get your ass out, like that kind of racism. I'm glad I don't live there. I mean, like, live in that time, but like, and clearly there's like unrest that happens with police brutality and the way cops treat people in the States. But that kind of racism, magnifique. Like, it's just, you can't, I would never go back there. And the fact that like my mom was kind of alive during that time, Jesus Christ, man. Anyway, sorry.
I love your answers, man. This is great. You're fucking crushing this. I wasn't expecting the musical thing, but I'm glad you brought it up. Grease was a big part of my childhood. My mom's obsessed with the movie.
Grease is dope. Yo, picture this. What's the name? You're the One That I Love. You're the One That I Love. Imagine that in like a slow, dreary kind of rock version of that. Somebody needs to do that. I've been thinking about that. Like, you know how they've been doing like hard trailers where they do like, yeah. You imagine a horror film with that.
I feel that. I see it.
Ooh. Because they've been doing that a lot lately. Sorry.
Or you take that like lo-fi effect and really go in that super depressing angle with it and really add that melancholy vibe. I see it. That's an interesting move for that.
See, track. Man, Holden, you need to make that track, man.
I don't know if I'm gonna make that track. I'm gonna have to live with my mom after. But like, it's like, don't fuck with my favorite songs. Yo, my mom, we got her a version with the script. Like, she has a script. Oh, like, she's that deep in there. Yo, she saw it in theaters 113 times.
I mean, it really is up there, man. It has that. That's a lot of times.
Yo, I swear, but it was like the 70s or whatever it came out. So like, what were you gonna do? But she would sit there all day on the Saturday and the Sunday, the whole theater run, just sit there with the one ticket, and she'd go out and get popcorn every time it was Beauty School Dropout.
Is this in Canada? Is this?
Yeah, it's in Montreal.
Montreal, man. Damn, that's incredible, man. It's worth it. Like, I'd watch it at least 4 or 5 times in the theater. I don't know if I could commit the money to 113 times, but I could definitely
It's
if I
annoying.
was sneaking in.
I think I appreciate it a lot more as an adult than I did when I was younger, because I wasn't so into musicals in my life, but I appreciate Grease because it's got a lot of social commentaries and shit.
Right.
No, but that's still wonderful. I mean that like I like the context and the ambiance you're creating for your world, almost like you're a superhero character and we're getting the backstory to it all. But I mean, yo,
Oh
even on
man.
Wikipedia, they put the fucking childhood anecdotes because people give a shit. It's the most
Yeah.
important stuffs for real. And
Yeah.
I don't know, were you a drawer back when you were little? Because you said you're a creative, artisty type of all kinds and varieties. So
I couldn't draw for shit, and but you know it's crazy. When I was a kid, I read a lot of comic books. Actually, it's comic books are actually the way that I developed reading comprehension. I think
oh, big interesting.
I can honestly say for like up until maybe 11 years old, I couldn't comprehend things that I was reading. Like I could see that this says like who sings Good Morning Baltimore in Hairspray the musical, but my brain couldn't process what that text meant. Comic books were the first time that I developed some reading comprehension, and because my mom found out that like I loved comic books so much, she could actually draw her ass off. She would draw. I would ask her to draw me Wolverine with no mask on, when he had like the mutton chops and it would kind of go up like that. I get her to draw me shit like that because I just thought it was so fucking cool that my mom could draw. And I was like, if you could draw, this is my gauge. If you could draw, then draw me Wolverine. And she's like, yeah, sure. This is like, and I was fascinated, man. So no, I couldn't draw, but I had an admiration for drawing through my mom.
I love the fact that you're able to give your mom flowers like that. That's so fucking cool that your mom was like, what luck
Bro,
though, right? When your kids get into that age where you're about to like not be cool to like find this kryptonite of shit that keeps you cool. Like
yeah,
your mom would have
yo,
been all over that shit. Like fuck that, you gonna love me for life.
my mom used to do so two things she used to do that used to drive me crazy, but I loved it. So there was this book I loved called The Tiny Scrawny Lion. I fucking love this book, right? My mom would travel a lot for like marine biology and shit like that. So she recorded Tiny Scrawny Lion on a cassette so that I could listen to it, and she would tell me to turn the page when it was time to turn the page. So like at a very young age, I was around a person that was like doing shit that was like insane to me. Like as a kid, I was just fucking like I couldn't
Wow, like
handle.
that's like the illest fucking like parenting hack I could ever think of for a
Yo,
parent that might not be there.
yeah,
Wow, big
she used to
knowledge
fuck.
nugget.
Yeah, she used to do that, and like she did it for a couple of my books, and it made me realize like, oh, this isn't. And I would like say stuff like to my friends about the stuff my mom do, and they'd be like, "My mom doesn't do that shit." And I realized like, oh, okay, my mom is a little different about the way she goes about her parenting. It's like she allowed me to talk like insanely and dream, and you know it's something valuable to that, man.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think that is one of those really like, yo, I mean, I'm trying, maybe it happens. Maybe there's a little me running around in the future. I'm trying to like write down all the good hacks that like, because people
right,
act like there's no rules to parenting. I'm like, bro, just go talk to parents. There's all the
Russ.
rules. All the
Yeah,
rules are there. They explain
yeah,
everything to you.
yeah. I think people that say things like that are in danger of becoming terrible parents. There are some parameters. Like everything isn't loosey goosey. I think that like there's this like fake I'm laid back. That's not a real thing. The more I adult in this life, the more I realize like people aren't as laid back as they claim they are. If
Nah,
somebody tells you they're laid back, they're not laid back. If somebody tells you they're alpha male, they're not an alpha male. It's like these hacks. If somebody proclaims a thing, they're probably not that thing. So
unless they come with a stat sheet.
that's true. Yeah, that's yeah,
I'm just
that's
saying.
different.
That is
That's
different.
different. Yeah, that's different.
All right, so if we go back to you being 10, your mind gets blown off because of a Tribe Called Quest. What exactly entails with your mind getting blown open? What changes at that point for you?
Um, so one of the things that really did kind of resonate in my city was Baltimore club music. So Baltimore club music was like a huge thing. Pharrell has mentioned it in the past. It's a genre of music that's kind of similar to Philly club, but it has its own like, very Baltimore specific sort of chants over like simple drum loops that kind of become really complex in this like mix of, there's like, you might listen to a club mix and there's like five or six songs within that kind of transition from one to the other. It's really pretty dope, man. It's something to kind of, there was recently a documentary about some aspect of it on Netflix called Dark City. Dark City on Netflix is kind of a very artsy look at Baltimore club. They don't play all of the older ones, but Baltimore club also fucked my life up, like in a pretty crazy way. So I hear Tribe Called Quest, and then that piques my curiosity about listening to the radio. While I listen to the radio, Baltimore club becomes like a bigger part of my life. And there are two competing stations at the time. There's V103 and 92Q, who at 8 o'clock on Fridays used to have these club mixes. They'd be like 2 hour blocks of incredible music, like incredible club music. And it would fuck me up because I was like, I got to record it on each one. So I try to record each station. And that got me into recording things and making playlists. And, you did it with tape, which was hard as fuck, but you make a playlist of things that you like to listen to. And so you could listen to something on the way, on the bus, on the way to school or something like that. And that got me listening to more types of music, the radio, essentially.
That's crazy. Because this is like what, 93, 94, right? So it's an era that's way before YouTube, way before the internet. And it's also nifty because it's not Montreal and it's not a well-documented place such as New York or LA.
Right.
So it's always nifty to like how much, like, for you, like, I guess at that age the radio is a big part of it, but you also like get turned on to music videos, you start like dubbing tapes. Like, tell us a bit what it's like for you to actually go about getting new music at this era beyond the radio. So you hear a dope ass song on the radio, then what happens?
Then you try to figure out what it is. So that was the hardest part. You'd be like, okay, I heard something on the radio. And so one of the things that happened was one of our cousins, so Tizzy, and I had an older cousin named Tuna who listened to a ton of hip hop, but I was petrified of talking to him. So what I'd do is I'd listen to his music. He was the plug on new music. You stick your ear out to the stairs and you hear like Nas, It Ain't Hard to Tell, or Wu-Tang Clan Ain't Nothing to Fuck With, or Gravediggers, or something that like I could not handle how vivid Nas was. Like, I could not handle when I first heard Illmatic in my aunt's house. It fucked another thing. It like, I know this sounds like hyperbole, man, but it really,
no, it doesn't. It sounds like you're young, right? Like this. All of us remember being young and watching and having this shit. Like, I swear, every single human that I've talked to may not have used the same language, but has described the same experience approximately at this point when they've had it.
So here's the problem, Holden. I'm 37 and I still have the same feeling. I still have those explosions still happen to me, and I can't figure out what that has to do with. Some of it feels like it's like allowing yourself to experience something with a lack of like judgment. It's like you take it in. A new movie, a new song, a new something can still do the same thing. Like, when I think about the feeling I felt when I listened to Nas Illmatic or It Ain't Hard to Tell first, I can definitely tell you times I felt that in the past 6 months or so.
I relate to that. I try to keep that alive, but I lost that, but then I got it again. Like, that's one of those muscle things, right? Because
what stopped it, if you don't mind me asking? What was the thing that, like,
somewhere in my early 20s, whatever, I guess I didn't allow myself to care. Like, I was always excited about shit. It's okay, like regular shit can excite me a lot. But let's say the luster of life wasn't what it was. But then when I started looking for like newer experiences, and probably my mid-20s, I decided being miserable probably wasn't like the path forward in life, and I didn't really have good reasons to be miserable. So I started the process of like looking for shit. And man, if you start looking for shit, there's just amazing stuff all over. Like, if you like take a really open mind to music, even you can like find stuff. Like I remember the first time I found Björk's music, and she recorded a track on her first album where she went into the bathroom. First of all, she's performing it live, and she takes a hand recorded mic as she's spitting the track, walks into the bathroom stall, and then leaves the fucking venue. And then that's the album version. And that shit blew my I was like, yo, you can just make music like that? And this was what, 3 years ago maybe? But just to be able to see the world through for me, it's a lot of perspective. So with this show, oh my fucking god, dude, I get to go through this a lot. Like, you can just record your kid fucking, you can just spit the books at the kid and you can do that afar. That's gonna solve all kinds of fucking problems. Oh, shout out Rachel for the follow. I missed that, my bad. But yo, so it's like, yo, for me, it's like if you look for it and you allow yourself to be excited like a 6-year-old, you can be excited by a 6-year-old.
Yeah, Holden. When I talk to a hip hop producer and they say that they've created a whole album on an iPad or an Android tablet, I want to punch them in the chest. I feel the same level of like, I'm like, how can you make music completely on a tablet? I can't.
Tools.
I know that's a weird correlation, but I have that same level of amazement. You talk about kids, people just making
hold on,
beats
I'm 33, right? So I have the exact same level of amazement that you do. My man sends me some shit. I'm like, bro, yo, these beats are wicked. He's like, yeah, the guy made them entire. He's like 17, made them on an iPad. I interviewed a 17-year-old Ron James. You might not want to interview a 17-year-old if you are feeling this
makes you feel crazy, right?
He has recorded 185 songs by himself, mixed and mastered, and he's 17 by himself.
I normally don't like ask people to like. I normally don't say things that try to incite violence, but I beat that little kid up.
I know. I
just
saw
off the strength of like. I got like a good right hook. Like I would just punch him. He'll be okay. I'll just punch him in his chest and like, you fucking.
Here's the problem. He was so humble about it. He was respectful to the arts. He was just.
That's so cool, man.
All the things, and you're like, it's just astounding to me that your young people are actually my best answer for where I get the most of that feeling. I go talk to a 20-year-old.
Oh wow.
I walk out with this feeling like the whole world is incredible because it's like they're all good at branding. And I'm like, that's a surprisingly marketable skill to have in this day and age. It looks like this generation's gonna be all right.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah,
I'm hopeful.
But I also think it's perspective. If you hang out with negative nillies all the time and everybody wants to be a naysayer and everyone wants to see the worst in everything, then you're never ever gonna allow yourself to experience. If you want to like, if 1985 is like the pinnacle of content, then you'll never see how dope 2021 is.
Yeah, people that talk like that are like legitimate haters. Like I think good music gets made all the time. Like, you know, people that are like R&B isn't like, sure. I mean, obviously, like there was a marketing team that was handling putting something in front of your face every moment of the day. MTV, the promo cycle with that. So like in our heads, things are represented very differently. But if you mean like the pool of talent is huge now, and you can listen. You know what's one of the scariest things in the world? One thing that I kind of wish we would get back is like, if you and I talk, Holden, I could live where you live on the same street, and we could talk about music, and I'll give you 50 people that you've never heard of in your life, and you will give me 50 people that I've never heard of in my life. And it's the weirdest thing in the world. I kind of miss when there was like some level of.
So you can have that again, but you got to look for that, and it's hard to find. But I started doing album reviews. We're gonna go back to it in a little bit, but I fucking love this chat. But like I started doing album reviews, and bro, I started finding all this underground shit, and I realized what happened is Billboard used to rely on the streets to find what's really hot. Billboard don't give a fuck what anybody thinks but data. So it changed. The metric of success went from tastemakers to data. And unless you really understand like the 30 years of A&Rs and the evolution, and you've really gone down this path of this music history rabbit hole, it's hard to like understand why certain music charts and certain music doesn't chart now versus then. But none of y'all are buying albums. You know how easy it would be to make one of these dudes chart on a coordinated effort of like 500 people who are willing to put up $20 each. So I'm just saying, if y'all want to see your favorite guy chart, go buy his shit.
Y'all doing it with the AMC stock. I'm just saying, like it can happen with other things. Like I'm watching, like I'm an investor, AMC to the moon. I'm actually paying attention to stuff like that, but like it's a coordinated thing. People meet in a place, they talk about it, they do it, and then it just happens. It's not that hard.
It's like, you're gonna tell me that y'all couldn't take a Freddie Gibbs and Alchemist album and keep him at #1 for 5 weeks? Like, come the fuck on. It's up to you guys to put that effort in.
Incredible album. Incredible album.
I don't know. I heard 2 of them. I don't know which one you mean.
There's not Pinata.
There's Pinata, and then there's the other.
Alfredo.
Yeah.
Alfredo.
Okay, yeah,
Alfredo was one.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if people really want to do it, or take your, so this dude was telling me just the other, again, astounding fucking moment to me. He used QR codes to kind of play with the sales a bit, and then used the combination of that and just decent people skills to get enough people to buy his shit to put him next to Cardi B in the iTunes store.
That's insane.
So it's like, if that guy could pull that off on the number of people it took to do it, it's like, nah, people would much rather be haters than put their dollars down on creating change in meaningful ways like that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Hating, people don't talk about how good it feels to hate.
So good.
It feels so good. You ever like somebody do something slightly better than you, and you just like, that dirty,
all the time,
ugly,
all the time.
Like, you just feel it. It just feels good to hate. I mean, like, but there's some like, it creates a ripple effect, and you know that energy will circulate and come back to you. So I can say
my early content career was a lot of that jealousy.
For real?
Well, because I didn't know better. Like, I came in, I put in so much effort, and then, you know, it doesn't necessarily work out as much as you think it's going to be at first. And then you see, there was one guy, and he commented on my shit, and then he was at like 10,000 views. And I'm not the hugest fan of his content, and I don't think we jive, right? But the fact that he was just doing so much better by making such cheaper content got to me for a little bit one time. But then I got older, and I realized, yo, but we doing things, and like there are elements to it that are like worth not paying attention to, like being jealous of other people's success when you've managed to make your life more interesting. Damn. You know, like, and having perspectives to it. But yeah, I had to learn how to not be a hater and how to just love other people's success. Like, that is a skill that I think a lot of people should put time and effort into honing and develop, especially if you want to interview people, because then you're going to be talking to lots of people with way better accolades than you.
Very true. I appreciate that emotional honesty, man. If you didn't answer that properly, I would think you've been holding out.
Facts. But it's also like,
you see what I did? I played on your name. I said holding out. Man, come on, Holden.
Man, I get all the puns on my name. I gloss over them. I'm just like, any other puns?
Don't ever gloss over my puns. Ever in your life, gloss over my puns. You're gonna absorb them into your body, and then you're gonna take them in like naturally.
But yeah, no. I definitely think it's worth it if very few people leverage the power of asking me questions.
Really?
Yeah, they don't care. Is my genuine thought.
So they just want to talk? That's weird. I like conversations,
bro,
man.
Okay, sometimes it's not even that. I'm going to throw like one more before we go back to your story, because I do want to bring it back on course. I mean, I'm loving this stuff. This is why it's fun to talk to interviewers, because y'all know how to talk.
Right. Thank you, man.
So I have like conversations with people where they want to talk. They don't ask me questions, but they also don't really answer beyond like a couple of like sentences.
Mm.
And you're like, but wait, what? I just took 90 seconds to build that shit up. and now you just. So I've had episodes where I swear 75% of it is me talking and then trying to answer the question for the person. Not a lot.
Yeah.
And in some cases, it's actually related to that like literacy thing you were touching on earlier. And I realized there's a socio dynamic towards an entire culture of people who have been taught not to speak with lots of words, to use code, to work around it, put into a position where now they're on the internet being asked questions, and they use phrases like, you know what I mean, for a lot of reasons. And now you're faced with an environment where they actually required somebody to take the time to paraphrase it so they can co-sign the right answer. And that was so fucking complicated for me to wrap my head around. That took months.
You sound like a BuzzFeed article right now, and I love it.
Bro, my brain is like a BuzzFeed article, but without the clickbait. Like, I would never want to title
like
shit
a
like
BuzzFeed
that.
article.
Like, they're good, sort of, but like, man, I just, because, yo, the dude hit me up after and basically said that in different words, so I wasn't, like, coming at it from, like, that shit up. It was just, like, you learn this shit. It's crazy shit.
It's heavy, man, because you don't want to, especially in a culture where, like, there are media outlets that really encourage people to tell about their criminal acts, about their relationships, their beefs.
Especially guys with beards like mine, Mr. Vlad.
I don't know who that is. I've never heard of Vlad.
DJ Vlad is like
the
talk. He's just a fucking worst. I tell people, don't turn me into DJ Vlad if they start trying to self-incriminate.
Now, if I'm just talking to you and I just take out a shotgun, you're allowed to ask me why I have a shotgun out. Like, that makes sense to me.
But
like if I'm just like carrying it like this, but if you just ask me like, man, I heard that you had beef with Lil Keyshawn. Lil Keyshawn just a person I just made up. But if who's my beef with Lil Keyshawn, I'm like, Lil Keyshawn, when I see him in the streets, I'm gonna slap him with my my leather glove. You might be like, that's you go put that as the headline in my interview, that I'm gonna slap Lil Keyshawn with a leather glove.
You're not even being hyperbolic. It is flat out like exactly what he does.
That's what he does.
Like, flat out.
What he does. No, yeah. So I don't know.
Oh, it's the worst. So it's like, for me, it's like, nah. Especially if I'm gonna be white up in this shit, I'm not gonna do that shit. I don't fucking understand the world. But like, you can name drop DJ Vlad in any clip, Bonnie. Fuck that guy. Do it for the clip.
Okay, I'll let you get that off. I love everybody, man.
I mean, I don't like people who come in and the amount of people bro, like, at a certain point you got criticized for it and chose to ignore the criticism and just keep being himself. Right. And at that moment, it was like, nah, I can't. And in my position, I feel like I should take a stance on him.
Anybody that emphasizes that in any community is predatory. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, that's how I feel. But that doesn't mean that, like, he doesn't have interviews that I don't watch. Like,
yeah, I mean,
yeah. Who else is going to talk to Coolio, man?
No, but to be fair, I don't watch any of the new ones. I'll only watch stuff if I'm researching old shit, like for battle rappers or whatever. But I just won't touch his channel no more. It's done. I don't think it's fair. And I think for the sake of clarity, I'll say his name. But, like, there's just so many other options on the internet of people doing similar things that just never, ever fucking cross those lines. But they're not getting the buzz that comes with that shit. But, like, there's problems that come, especially if you look into what's going on in Jacksonville right now, and, like, knowing he'd just take anybody on there in a second and perpetuate something that could end up in death. Like, so he'd do it anyway. So it's probably like, think deeply on this shit. It pisses me the fuck off.
No, I get it, man. Especially if you care about the culture, you care about the culture and how it,
But especially when you look into shit and you realize that the media is the #1 source of fucking shit up in almost everything. The fucking pointed questions, the provocative bullshit, the clickbait exploits and shit. So it puts me in a position where if I'm trying to be media up in this shit, I'm either going to be that or I'm not going to be that. Those are my two choices. So I'm not going to be that.
Yeah.
I don't mind talking about it in, like, this kind of a context, but, like, I'm more interested in, like, the fact that, you're, like, fucking busting out musical fucking stories and shit. Speaking of, you're a young one. Your mind's been opened up to the world of music. And then, you get in the plug. You're moving on through to club music. When do you decide like you want to start pursuing artistic endeavors of different kinds? Also, are you like a writer or any of this shit?
Yeah. I mean, I write jokes. I mean, you mean like
Like in high
Oh
school?
yeah.
In like the
Oh
younger
yeah.
days. We're still in the younger
Absolutely.
days of your life. We went back to your story.
Okay, went back in time. This is like you Tarantino, and I appreciate that.
That's how we do.
When I got to a point where this sort of creative bug happened, yeah, I was writing stories. Like I would write stories that always ended in somebody getting kicked in the balls. I don't know. It was very important that during the course of the story that someone gets punched in the face and kicked in the balls, because to me that's the best form of self-defense. So I would write these stories, and then for creative writing, I took a couple creative writing classes, and a lucky situation. My mom also wrote, and I would give her a story, and she would critique it, and stories are really big to me, man. Like they carry a lot of. At some point, we're gonna figure out that there's like a data transferred through song, and the voice, and how you feel things that you feel.
Just go look into Icelandic poetry. It's gonna fuck you up if you're already feeling this way.
Oh man,
ancient Icelandic poetry.
Ancient Icelandic.
Bro, I copped it because basically you run through that shit and you realize how powerful oral storytelling is up until writing comes in.
Damn.
And writing changed the world.
That's crazy, man. But yeah. So what was your question? What was the question?
Basically, I'm trying to map out your life in a sequence of anecdotes of your fucking creative exploits.
Well, yeah. So like writing stories was pretty huge to me, man. Yeah, it was important. And
is music a thing that you were fucking with at that time?
No. On occasion, I would like put a rhyme together. So I always thought that like everybody around me, I have a funny family, and super charismatic people growing up. And, I would hear my friends, uncles and stuff like that say things that like really sat with me. Like one time I heard two people arguing on the street, and it was like a friend of my uncle's, and then this man was arguing, and he said, I'm gonna cut you before God gets the news. And I was like, what hold on. And then he repeated it. He was like, I'm gonna cut you before God gets the news. And I was like, who says things like that? That made me realize like there was like this, sure, you could be like, I'm gonna beat you up, or I'm gonna kill you, or you could say, I'm gonna cut you before God gets the news. There's like it made me realize that there were several ways that you could say something really very plain in a cool way. It's like a poetry to language. So yeah,
that is an amazing way to like break that down. So you're a young one and you realize there's a poetry to language, and you're surrounded by people that are talented, but you're not necessarily pursuing the talent.
No, there were a lot of people around me that could rap. Like there were, you meet that kid that's like, oh, he's the person that can, and he has like basically he copy and pasted a Wu-Tang verse, but he put his own, like it was stuff like that. But I started making beats right around 14. I'd say 14 or 15 is when I started making beats on Fruity Loops.
So this is like 97?
So let me find out when FLs, because I was making beats.
The very first Fruity Loops?
Yeah. Oh, so this must have been. Yeah, I remember creating it like. When did I have Fruity Loops? So it must have been, like I was like 13 or 14.
That's serious though. So you basically, what gets you to a point where you're gonna start making beats? Because everyone else is rapping?
Everybody else is rapping, and what you'll learn about me is that everything is like a utility. I don't think about music in that sense, like like oh, I was touched with the urge to no. What it is like it's a feeling that you feel. Okay, you know when you watch like a horror film and like somebody gets something hurt, like somebody might get like, oh, his leg got cut off and now he's using like a stick to move, like to carry. That's all art is to me. I mean, that doesn't, I'm not trying to
No.
make it sound like it's not important, but I'm saying like when that feels like impairment or a handicap that I have to express it through whatever it is that feels like that could go in that peg instead of like where my leg got cut off. It could be like it could be music, it could be jokes, it could be an art thing on Photoshop, it could be like a edited video that I made. That could be whatever it is at that point, but I'll try to learn it enough that I can express whatever feeling is happening at the time.
You just sound like one of those Renaissance artists that did everything.
Oh man, don't do that to me.
It is what it is. I mean, I got a feeling and I had to manifest that feeling just in the perfect way that fit that perfect emotion, because there was a part of me that was missing and I had to. It's like, yo, that's like some straight up bring it back kind of art. I love it.
Okay.
I respect it too. So you basically get into the beats and you're on the early versions of Fruity Loops, going through that experience of putting it together. Yeah. What's that process like, and how are you learning how to do it? Because it's one thing to be like there, but like if we bring the internet back to the late 90s,
oh yeah, there was none of that.
I don't even think there's a Google yet. There's an Ask
Jeeves
maybe.
That's hella forums. So like forums always existed. So you'd go in the Fruity Loops forums, or you go like in like a music making forum or something like that.
The first guy to answer from this era to say forums though.
Respect. Yeah, man, forums are like a super, like Boxton. I don't know if you know about Boxton. Boxton's like, oh man, Boxton, or it's BX. So like it was a big place where I'd like see people that were trying to do exactly what I was trying to do, put together things and make it sound not like trash. But the problem was making it sound like it wasn't mechanical. I think that's all I wanted. All I wanted for it to not sound like it was on like a metronome.
Yo, that's big.
Yeah.
I like the way you said that. How do you achieve that?
Listening to things and figuring out like so hi-hats to me sound very metronome-y. It sounds like you're trying to time out. It's a low. There's nothing wrong with hi-hats. What I'm saying is what I'm about to say isn't like an insult to hi-hats.
This is just your feelings. So it's
all so like game. So the math of it is like, the counts and all that stuff. I couldn't really tell you any of that stuff, but I do know that sometimes when you listen to things, hi-hats a lot of the time sound like it's used to guide wherever the drums go. It's you could tell that somebody was sitting in the studio like on this count, tss, boom, tss, boom, and that's how they built the beat. When I would hear people like Pharrell and Timberland, there was none of that. There was no hi-hats. There was just like rhythm. It was typically a cool melody, and melody is like a very new agey thing in hip hop generally. Melody, and then some really heavy duty drums that kind of go under it, but it wasn't guided by a hi-hat. It was like a thing that I heard that sounded a little more like I could make more sense of it, because it was like, oh god, this is outside of that. Because every beat that I heard a kid make was just like hi-hats and then like some drums. They really didn't really have any melodies. And that was another thing I tried to do. Everybody around me was trying to make beats, but I was like, why don't I add a melody to this to make it sound more like
and we're saying something this is you at like 14-ish.
Yeah, 14, 15. Yeah, it just was
just because like important. What you were saying there, I know a lot of rappers who I don't know how to communicate them, but I wish they'd rap less like they were following the hi-hats and rap more like the grooviness.
Yeah, but that's hard though, man. Like you're asking
This
I
is
mean,
again
back
my
to
preferences, but this is also my preferences after recent revelations. So fuck, old me doesn't even agree with me now.
Yeah. But no, I get what you're saying. Like there's like a now that the Migos flows kind of taken over, it's really hard to understand. Like sometimes there's like a lack of complexity because of the art form too. Like if you rap like the Migos can do a lot within that, right? But everybody can't be necessarily like that level of intricate with that rap style, right? So you have somebody that's I mean, like however you feel about the Migos flow is like
they are so in the pocket that people really got to give them their fucking flowers.
it's like Bone Thugs level of like in the pocket,
and they're so clear, like they're so clear.
Yes. So you have a style that is restricting because it doesn't allow for like long stretches of words, right? That are on the same bar. So you wind up like making these compromises in what you say. So you might be like, I got my girl in a boat. You like that's it. Like there's no complexity to you wrap that scheme off a boat. You have like 3 things you wrap with that. She went did it with coke. So you wind up sounding like almost like a nursery rhyme, which is and look, there are people that do incredible things with that thing, but I didn't like that. I didn't. That's why Catch the Fade is what Catch the Fade is with Tizzy. It is like whatever you feel when you listen to Griselda, that's what we like. Whatever you listen when you listen to Run the Jewels, or like we're like it feels like something else is happening. Other than that, that's not to. I mean, that's all I can really describe it as. Something else is happening.
No, but I appreciate what you're saying, and that's again, it's not even done in a way where you're disrespectful to it. You're like, yo, that shit's fire. To be fair, a lot of people copying it don't get the technical nuances that make Migos super great.
Right.
The haters don't get what makes Migos super great. They're just mad. Also, they don't remember that Short Dick Man is a charting song back in the day that got played in the clubs too, right next to where a Migos song would have been, but people weren't. Like, come on, this shit's always been there. It's always been club music. Nobody went to the club. Who went to the club? There's always the guy. Who went to the club, honestly, to listen to shit like that was really depressing? Or, like, really, like, super abstract, theoretical. Like, you're not going to the club to break down, like, a Rhymesayers album.
Right.
For the most part.
It's like,
and
when
I love
drive...
Rhymesayers, sure, but, like, not the club.
Yeah, when I'm riding in the car, when I'm like heading somewhere like work, give me Migos, give me
facts,
give me Travis, good. give me people who could give me like a feeling over, and that's okay, man. I think that people need to respect the idea that like music exists and all these different sounds incite different feelings, and it's okay to grab a bunch of them to make you feel a given emotion at a given time.
I don't know. I guess I just always grew up liking a lot of genres of music, so I've never been. There's never been a phase in my life where there's only ever been one genre. If anything, I'm giving the crown to nu metal because it's the fusion of genres. You know, like that shit's just cool to me. But I also realized that there's this transition that happened where a lot of people of a certain age, let's call it the millennials and up, grew up in this like phase of like you locked into your identity with genre, and then YouTube came and everybody just decided to like what they fucking like in the algorithm world. So it's a completely different existence now where a lot of the old rules don't apply, and genre lines are kind of meaningless in a way for young people that they're super important to old people. And the fact is, I don't know, if you've ever fucked to 2014 Forest Hills Drive, you'll realize it's not a good fucking album.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it less of a banger.
You're definitely gonna like accidentally hit the wrong hole. You're definitely gonna slobber on her forehead.
7-minute outro of shoutouts. No, sir. You don't want that.
Yeah, but that's true, man.
But anyway, so you're making beats, and how do you get your samples? Because you're like again super young in this early internet world.
I mean, I'm chopping stuff up from like. That's when loop packs and stuff started to be a thing, right? So like you got a loop pack, and then you figure out that like there's a recorder within the app, or you use something like Microsoft sound recorder. We can bring a converting it to a WAV file was so fucking ridiculous. So you rip a CD.
Love
I
it.
get like a 70s because bootleggers, bootleg. God bless the bootleggers. But let's show, man. You get like a compilation of 70s songs. You're listening to them and you rip. So I saved up my money, $300, by the way, for a CD burner. I saved and saved and saved for 6 months. I mowed lawns. I did whatever I could. Saved up my shit. Also started
You're
working
still
at
like
like
super
13.
young, right?
Yeah, 13 and a half.
Oof.
I started working. So like I'm like 14 and I can make money. So for each shirt, I have a pair of Air Force Ones. And then I'm also saving up for a CD burner because CD burner is it. My life is going to change if I get this because you could rip shit, you could burn shit. And when I got one, it changed my shit because I could carry those CDs out and be like, look, here's something with Nas and Nature and Cannabis and Noriega, and you got some Dub C, got some Dub C on there. You have all these things you could give to people that felt like you could make playlists. And then I didn't have a CD player in the car at that point, but it started.
And so basically, your life has been in curation. So you're a curator now. You're a young curator.
I'm a curator, and when I'm like 15, I start selling CDs. I start selling mix CDs and selling mixtapes. So like
Do you have
Clue
a
tapes.
name?
No, man, I should have. I didn't even make me. I would just put Ronald Mix. It was just a lack of creativity. Holden, you're asking me if I could. Cause you gotta understand, my life force is coming out through these CDs. I'm putting it through the wire on these CDs, and then you fucking asking me if I could salvage some of that energy to come up with a name. It's Ron Mix 001, sir. You take that because this CD is fire. The name is trash, though. I'm giving you the most trash name ever.
Like, you can kind of imagine they start circulating one day. And it's like, yo, bro, Ron Mix 042 is the best Ron Mix of them all. No, bro.
You heard that shit? It's got some Lil Kim on it. Yo, and that's what really kind of helped me understand that like you could do things like that. You could make CDs, you could burn them, and then like see, I hadn't gotten into like the recording music. Like I just started making beats, and then I found friends around like 15 or 16 that rapped, and I could, I took a really long time to learn how to like export the beats, but like I remember giving people beats. And that's, I think, the first time that I really started to like try to rap. Like I was not, my rap name was Arson, RSUN.
How did you come up with that?
I thought that fire was so fire. Like I was, when people say shit's fire, man, I was fire back then. Like I was, you couldn't tell me any different. Like to me, my imaginary rhymes that I hadn't written yet were gonna be fire. So I was Arson. I was
Bro,
guaranteed amazing. I was gonna set your compact disc on fire and burn your IKEA furniture. So,
dude, your imagination is incredible. Keep in mind, folks, we're still in like the young teenage years.
Yeah, man.
I'm
killing them at this point.
It's the foundational. Yo, you gotta understand. At some point in life, everybody has to do that part. It's way better to do that part when you're 15 than when you're 27.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So I guess, how do you start recording people? How does that process start working for you?
It happened at other people's houses because it took a really long time. There was like a gap where like I would give somebody a beat, but I wouldn't really like. Okay, so the first time I ever recorded my own voice, I had to it was Audition. Before it was Adobe Audition. And it was the first app that I used where you can line up two tracks. So, I would have a beat I had a little beef with a friend of mine. So like we would like he said he could rap better than me, and I was like, I don't rap very often, but I can rap better than you. So we would record things through Audition. We got them bootleg. We got a file. In our senior year of high school, we just send each other disses. Like, hold up, I send you a diss. It's like, you're a bitch. You don't eat. You piece of shit. You like Burger King over McDonald's, like that kind of shit, like ridiculous disses that just didn't have any weight at all. But it was the first time that I got familiar with the idea of like this could, once it leaves my hands, I don't know how it's going to be received. He was angry because I talked about his cousin who was in my eyes a bitch. Like I thought he was the super biggest bitch in the world. He was just a dumb person. He had a narrow head. I used to talk about how narrow his head was, and I like talked about that on the song.
How did you guys get it? You burn discs and hand out the discs, email the files, or?
Man, look, we used to email them, which would take forever. So like the files would be like, God, man. So the first one I did burn him a disc and gave it to him. I was like, listen to this because you're gonna need this because you're gonna re-listen to this fire from Arson that's gonna burn your whole house down. and then I emailed him one. But yeah, it was trash, man. It was trash. But it was great because it was the first time that I could record something and hear my voice. And I was like, I have a weird voice. It's too heavy. I feel like it's not a rapper's voice. Everybody sounds like they just that one of their balls dropped. It's like just if you have that voice where it's like that voice works so well over my octave. I feel like, think about anybody that's popular. It's like Drake's and the Baby actually has a deep voice. The Baby has a pretty heavy voice, but like, he's also an extraordinary sort of word sayer, like in my eyes.
He's got a whole vibe. If you can bring a vibe, because I was just thinking DMX had a whole vibe. He rocked that voice.
He did.
Say what you will. Ja Rule had a whole vibe for a minute. Rocked that voice well. Pac had a vibe.
And cornrows.
Rocked it.
Cornrows and deep voices together equal a smash hit. I don't care what you say.
Murder.
Yep.
I mean, you also can go the thoughtful route, though. You can always take that, I'm super pensive with my rhymes. You should listen to every kind of word that I say. Philosophical bars for days.
Yeah.
That just doesn't work as well for mass sales, but totally niches you in.
Totally. The problem is I like too much what people call fuck shit. I like a lot of fuck shit. I like fights and like I would like World Star and like I always have to battle this in my head because like I'm a pretty positive person, but I also like to see people get knocked out. It's like a weird thing. It's like the animal part of our brains that just desires to see somebody get kicked in the nuts. It's always existed in us. I'm just a little more honest about it than most.
No, I mean, I feel bad for the people who get kicked in the nuts. That's what happens when I watch it. I'm just like,
yeah, I know what you mean.
I can't help it. I'm not really into it, but I understand the desire because I like formats. I like animal fights because there's no people involved, but it's basically the same shit. You're just watching like two fucking animals going at it. It's a wonderful time. It's pretty weird, but it's still a wonderful time. So basically, you're doing beats in high school. You're going by to people's cribs. You guys start recording. You start doing little diss tracks that you're sending back and forth. Do you ever get around to like actually going further with it at that point?
No. So my friend Blizz had a group called Bemaray Records. Like it was like a group, and they would record rap songs. Why am I saying it like this? Why am I saying it like a person who's never heard this before? They would record songs, and it was like really pretty dope because it was like they had like a system. It was like 5 or 6 of them in a group. They would they had a producer, in-house producer. He would lay down the songs, they'll record them, put them out, sell their CDs. And I just kind of sat around and I'd be like, man, I have some beats. Like I waited like 6 months of just sitting in those sessions, and I was like, I have beats. And then I played some, and they were just like, these are dope, but like, you know, nothing really happened. You know, it was nice to hear that somebody outside of myself was like, oh, these are pretty good beats. But you know, they had an in-house producer, and he did the majority of that stuff. So I didn't really have a taste of like hearing somebody over my beat for quite some time. Like it really took quite some time before I heard it, you know, before I heard it. Yeah. And I'd say, not to skip around, like, but Tizzy and I really started doing stuff together because of a drunken night with a friend in like this suburban area of Baltimore called Towson. It's like Towson, Maryland, Towson University. Amy Schumer went there. I went there. I was like out one day, and there was this drunken man, and he was getting hot dogs behind me. Didn't pay any attention to him. He was like 6'5", and this really pretty girl that was like athletic build. And she asked me if I could guess the name of the picture on her phone, she would give me a kiss. And I said, kind of quickly, not paying any attention, I was like, that's a marmoset. The reason I knew that is because I used to watch a lot of shit with like animals. So I turned around, and then the girl kisses me. Like I wasn't paying any attention. Like I thought, okay, she's gonna walk away. That's the thing drunken people say. I turn around, the girl kisses me. Upon that happening, the dude with the hot dogs that was at the hot dog stand grabs my shoulder and says he's gonna fuck me up. I come to find out that's the woman's big brother, and he's gonna fuck me up. So I start trying to tell jokes before he's gonna beat me up, and he starts laughing at me. And he's like, I like you. Like I was gonna fuck you up, but I really like you. I can't believe this happened. And then his friend was like, why don't you come with us to our apartment, and we'll just talk and eat some pizza. I'll take these hot dogs to these girls. We got there, and I found out what the guy I was walking with was a producer. He was a producer, and he was like, he had a studio at a farm, and I knew that Tizzy rapped. So I was like, yo,
like all kinds of wild, this story. I just have to throw it in.
So I'm like, so I hit Tizzy up. I'm like, yo, I know a dude on a farm that has a studio space, and I make beats. We should make something together, and that'll be a thing. And from that, the Whackness came out. The Whackness, Tizzy's mixtape. That's on. He recently re-released it on Spotify. It's like one of the better freshman mixtapes you'll probably ever hear. It's like real all over the place, but I produced a bunch of stuff on it, and I rapped on it. It was like one of the first times that I'd ever like rapped, for real rapped. I wrote a 16 and put it on a song, and I was like, this is a little weird, but it was fun. And that kind of created this bug that years later became Catch the Fade.
So I remember Tizzy's version of that from the Tizzy interview, which is fun for your side of it. I think his was more Tizzy centric, to be honest. But you were definitely mentioned a lot. I remember.
So it was like a lot of farts. It was a lot of farts and
facts.
Like facts. Okay, go ahead. But you were saying Tizzy centric.
Yeah, I mean it was a Tizzy show. Now we're in the Ron James show, so it's Ron James centric. Yeah, he gave you a lot of love, a lot of fucking love. Because I was like, yo, I gotta talk to Ron James after. I just was left with that impression.
He's a brother. He's a brother I never had, honestly. Like he and I are like.
Yo, he's like in the comments nonstop commenting this whole interview. Like he's there.
For real?
This is how the Whackness started! ! Lol. And then followed by all caps. He killed that shit! ! Lol. Then Exo's going, my very first time being introduced to Sir Tizzy, still bump that to this day. Followed by Sir Tizzy going, Ronald, relax, LMAO.
Because that was a crazy time, and like it felt fresh, and I think what I wanted, and this is something I never really thought about until just now, was like I needed him to know that he could have something that could last forever. Like, regardless of how many people listen to it, it could be, once you do it, you can't undo it unless you erase it. But once you put it out into the air, you just don't know. But like, creating it was probably one of the more special things I've ever done. I got into a really bad car accident right after we recorded it. Almost died in a car accident. I should have did Through the Wire right now. That's, I almost died, but I really in my head was like, damn, I should have written like a Through the Wire right there. Should have. Fuck. You worried about not dying and healing, and I was like, damn, I should have made Through the Wire just right there in my bed.
I mean, I appreciate the sentiment because I'm pretty sure I'd be more like on that tip looking back on it now, but it's still fucked up that like that experience happened, and it's pretty blessed that you survived it and were able to do a whole bunch of incredible shit post that. But you said you went to college, and this sounded like it happened after college, or is it in college that this is happening?
Yeah, it was yeah, right. The accident happened right after college. I
So, so
had to learn how to use my right hand again. So like, it was really hard because I really wanted to make beats again. I really wanted to do stuff again, but my right hand wasn't working. So I had to like go to therapy and stuff like that. So at the time, so this is so weird, man. I was testing video games kind of on and off for a couple years. And then I'd gotten like a more normal job, and I got into the accident right after that. And I couldn't work for a while because my right hand just didn't work. Like, I had to relearn how to use it. I was in a lot of pain. I had to get a metal plate put in it. And that was right around the time that the whackness kind of came out, because I was like recovering, which is crazy that I'm thinking about that. But yeah, it was like this traumatic experience. But also Tizzy getting that album out. So like, it was like, the good part about it was that this album came about. I actually got into the accident on the way to picking up the mix and mastered CD of the whackness, which is crazy to think about. Yeah,
definitely, man, it's like a big one. I'm really glad that you got through it, and
Thanks,
sounds
man.
like a fucking rough experience. But I did want to touch on your college experiences a bit, because I mean, you ended up going on to do podcasting and movie breakdowns and all kinds of shit. So I'm wondering, like, what the fuck went on in college that made you get all up into these shenanigans later on? If you were involved in anything, and what the experience was like in general.
my my I went to Towson University because of Tizzy's mom, who went to Towson University. I needed some guidance, and I was like a shitty student. I was in community college for 3.5 years, 4 years. I was almost in community college for 4 years. I was like really messing up. But I got my act together and I transferred to Towson. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And one day I was in a film class, and the guy said, you talk too fucking much. You should do radio. It's like, what? He's like, you talk entirely too much. Like, you should do radio. Like, you would be incredible at radio. So I went to Towson with a major in radio. In the first year that I got there, they transitioned the program because radio was dying. Like, you got to think, like, I graduated from high school in 2001. This was like 2004, 2005. 2004, radio was like, as we knew radio. Like, it wasn't like always a determining factor of a hit anymore. They stopped my radio major.
Can I just ask a question? Bonnie made a great point in the chat. Everybody in that program must have had the best voices. Is that true?
Yo,
is like radio? Is that where you go for the Lydia's voice collection you're gonna get?
Honestly, some of the more interesting voices, I heard going to college, like some incredible voices. There's this guy named Kieran Kitson Walter, has one of one of the greatest voices I've ever heard in my life. Like, yeah. So I was there specifically for radio, which transitioned into basically music recording.
No
And when
shit.
I was when I was in Towson, I had a radio show called The Tempo Tantrum. The Tempo Tantrum was like a 10-song playlist, and it circulated throughout the dorms in Towson University. And then I made an MP3 version and put that online. And this was
No shit.
2004, 2005. So like I loved podcasting. The idea of like so this was a mixed thing. So that was happening. I was also dating a girl that moved to Ghana. I needed a way to communicate with her. So the Tempo Tantrum was essentially the first 10 Tempo Tantrums were just
Aww.
essentially, yeah, I love you letters that could circulate to Ghana because they were MP3s. She would have to go to like this little restaurant and download the episodes. But my first foray at podcasting was essentially to talk to a girl in Ghana through MP3s.
Dude, that is like romantic as fuck.
I'm soft as shit. I'm soft as baby shit.
Get it? That's
To
the
be honest with you, man. Like, look, if you like
bro. Soft
soft
is
as
the new
baby shit.
hard. I
Look,
don't know when
soft
that
as a
happened, but it was kids. But the young people have like, yo, if you're soft as shit, you're the new hard because it's brave to be soft in public.
yeah.
So it became like it's so not what we grew up with, but it's
Nah.
so advantageous to be soft and old today.
Everybody I know that's hard is broke. I don't know a person that, I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, man. Like, I don't know.
Holy shit, I love it.
Every super tough dude I know is broke or dead. And I think that it just requires so much energy. And this is like regardless of race, shape. These are people, all the hard people I know are dead, broke,
Shit,
or in
man.
jail.
Like it's one of those things that like you know like I get where you're coming from, but holy fuck, man, like that
Fucked
just
up,
slapped.
man.
It slaps, right? But like,
Yeah. It's a hard thing to say. It's like and this is, I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Like all the hard people I know are serving time, gone, or sweeping somewhere. And there's nothing wrong with sweeping, by the way. Let me sweeping somewhere.
I hear what you're saying. I do think though that one of the more fascinating things I found talking to young people is that emotional vulnerability on the internet is an attractive trait to all young people across the spectrum, and that is just like such a useful thing to be in this time.
It's useful, but you have to understand that the internet is forever.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you
but
gotta
it
be
is
like
though. Like,
cognizant of what you're saying.
yes,
You shouldn't just be spewing all the nonsense, but like
yeah,
with a little finesse, you can use your story in a powerful way to like communicate vulnerability from a position of strength.
like the through the wire that I should have did after I got in that car accident. God damn, man, I think about that a lot. I was like, I should have did something around that time.
Yeah, but like
Slept.
on the other hand, your life looks like it's got a whole bunch of shit going on, and it's pretty not boring. So it all worked out in a way where maybe doing that song might not have been the move because it worked out to be what it is today. But still,
I like the way you think, Holden.
I just try to. I used to be a negative Nilly, and then the more I embrace positivity and the silver lining approach to shit, and my new mantra is think like a 17-year-old. Pretend I'm broke as fuck when I face obstacles, because these 17-year-olds are doing some shit. And
I like the way you think.
How can they do shit with no money? There's no way daddy's spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars. No, they're just doing shit and figuring it out. And they'll get the $20 for the iPhone app and make the whole beat.
That's true.
So when you think about it from the position of this kid is just being resourceful, he doesn't plan on doing that forever. He's just being it's like fucking amazing. It's just like, wow, I'm inspired again by that shit. So I try to, but it took like months of getting over myself. That's a process. But then you do it and it's all fun and games again. Still, you're writing podcast mixtapes off of your college radio experience, which is exposing you to a lot of more curating, which we can tie back into your curating life early on. So that's fucking fantastic that curating's already a repeating force in your world. So how does college radio play out? Is that something you do for the whole time, or is it like a little thing that fades out?
Yeah, I do it. I do the Tempo Tantrum all the way out of college. Like, you know, I graduated from Towson. I still did it for quite some time. I didn't have like a huge following or anything, but like I loved doing it. I loved putting songs together. I loved the way that felt. And you know, so essentially my college life was like I worked at GameStop. I tested video games on and off for 4 years, 5 years, about 5 years. No, close to 6 years. And then
did you work on anything cool, or are you not allowed to say? Oh, I guess now you're allowed to say whatever.
So we essentially did the Universal Vivendi stuff. So like this is back then, so don't judge me. The Lord of the Rings original game before EA did it. The Thing, the Hulk that was based on the movie The Hulk, the first one with the Eric Bana version, Bruce Lee, I said Spyro, bunch of like mobile games. But yeah, I have my name in credits. That was another thing, man. Like seeing your name in credits can change your shit. Like it gives you a perspective about things that you don't really feel until you see it. You're like, oh, my name can be associated with something of quality, or it could be forever on something, or, you know.
It's kind of like seeing your name in the newspaper for the first time.
Yes. Hopefully not for anything bad.
No, I mean like a positive association.
Oh,
like
right, yeah.
Like an award, or I got a public speaking contest and they wrote about it in the local paper.
Wow.
A footnote, but my name's in that shit and it's in my closet to this day.
That's dope, man.
Yeah, it was like, yo, I could be in the paper for shit. For real.
Yeah.
Not like the paper. Yeah. I think it was like the Montreal Gazette. Back when print mattered. That's something. But yo, think about that statement. That means kids is gonna grow up and never have the opportunity to be in the paper.
That's crazy, man.
I never thought about that before.
That's crazy to think about. You know, I think there's gonna be like, as much as it's getting away from us, I think there's just gonna be a resurgence of stuff like that. I think physical things are gonna resurge in like a couple years, because I think that there's like, remember when Polaroids were a thing for a little bit again? Like people were like buying Polaroid cameras. I think physical things still matter. And sometimes that's a thing. That's a weird thing about young people. I love young people, but sometimes they don't see like long-term things. Like things don't last forever. Sometimes kids will talk about something like this kid was clowning. I heard this kid clowning this lady because she was on Facebook, and at the time he was on like Vine, and Vine is dead now. Like you become that person now faster. You are washed now. If you the service doesn't exist, and it's weird to think that like that there's like a language of like, this doesn't exist anymore. I don't deal with that anymore. That's old, or that's going to happen. That still happens to young people. So imagine how like a person feels that's like 10 years removed from social media. They're just like, I don't want to.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like I think what you said is interesting just in general, because the young people don't have the longevity per se, but they also lack the perspective of what it was like beforehand, which is another one. So a big one that really like fucked me up was, there's like 17-year-olds, 20-year-olds. These kids have like numbers that I wish I could get with my music. I don't get them.
Right.
I'm not into paying for ads. And they're just really doing social media right.
Yes, man.
I'm gonna be real with you. They're doing it right. Like, I don't know how to do it right the way they're doing it right, because I need to hire somebody to think like that so that they can produce it for me, because I can't produce the shit. I can think of the shit, but when we get to the actual making it part, I suck ass, and I don't think I'm going to get younger with it.
Yeah. It's a labor of love, man. Like, you know, the work that's required to put in for that is just, it's a lot. It's a big commitment.
But it's
So
also like
yeah,
you have to love video editing and a lot of shit like that to pull it. And I don't. I just don't love it.
you don't.
And I mean, I'm talking even the phone app video editing. I'm just not.
Right.
I'm into the pick up my phone and make a bad story version of social media. That only takes
Yeah.
you so far.
I started video editing during the quarantine. I created this series on my Instagram called Quarantine Dream, where like for a couple months I was doing like positive messages as frequently as I could. They were like once a week. Um, and that lasted for a little bit. That was nice. I just didn't know how to edit. It was like a real excuse to learn how to edit. So I like took Adobe Premiere and started chopping stuff up, and I'd make these positive messages about, you know, because my friends were going nuts, man. We were all collectively kind of going nuts, you know, and I was like, let me come up with something that could encourage my friends to still have fun and still look on the brighter side, and without feeling too preachy, you know.
So I appreciate that, but it's like I've done a lot of video editing. Also, it's an amazing campaign. A lot of boring ass video editing. I used to do how to videos at work. So, and then one time I said, I'm going to make a lyric video where the words fly in on cue.
That's so hard, man.
3.5 minutes into the 4.5 minute song, I give up.
Yeah.
Is it
It's hard, bro.
It's not hard. It's super fucking time consuming.
It's time consuming, yeah.
It's more
You're
like
absolutely right.
absolutely like, and you have to desire it. You may notice that the visual stuff I'm in control of, like setting up OBS, looks like ass. And the only things that look nice in my universe, other people design. Like, it's to the point where people are like, Holden, you're not allowed to design your own album covers. You're trash. If you're feeling like you're going to make a cover, you hit me up and I'll make the cover for you, Holden. That's the level of like where I'm at with visual. I'm learning. I'm not, I'm that bad. So it's like, video editing isn't fun. It's not like other people should do it. You need a script, bro. You need copy. You need like holla, but like you need visuals. I'm not the guy.
I got you.
I can do a lot, but not that. I've tried. Like it took a long. I had to make the lights dimmer. That was easier than figuring out a set. I just made them.
Right. I get it. I definitely get it.
Oh man, but that's sick though that you did all that in high school and you got exposed to that whole ecosystem, because it comes with like a lot more, right? If you're in college radio, you're gonna get exposed to sponsorships and just a bunch of other things. So, and that must have just translated into all of your podcasting adventures later on in life.
Yeah, I had an early obsession with. I love conversations, man. I think they really are the like. I don't know. It's one thing that'll never get old. It's one thing that'll never age, is like connections between people. And, you know, that's how I learned to make connections. Like, you know, my wife often talks about like how much I talk to people when I'm out. And some of it is like, you know, I can go into a room and I'll get 4 people's contact information. I know somebody produces, I know somebody edits, I know somebody. That's the way that I work. But that's important because that I may have something I could help them with, you know? Like I'm talking to you, Holden, like you may have something you do that you can help me with, and it's an exchange of energy, you know? It's like this exchange that's super important. So conversation is really important. I love conversation. I love podcasting, and I've been doing it for a really long time, and I love it.
You can hear it in the way that you conduct yourself in this one. It's like, I talk to a lot of people. Not a lot of people are able to eloquently express themselves with precision on repeat on any topic. That's when you can get into the who the fuck can podcast and who's just, you know, like, but it's, you know, the truth is every single person who's a good podcaster, the facts is that's what your conversations is like offline.
Yes, like that's what it is, man.
You're not actually, like anybody that ever met me in real life, this is it. This is the experience. or I'm rapping or some shit.
Yeah, some of it comes from like not being the coolest kid. When you were younger. Like, it's a weird thing. Like, I was never the most popular at all, like ever, but I got along with people. So that was kind of what happened. Like, because I wasn't the most popular person, I was friends with what people would be considered like the not cool kids, the goth kids, the, you know, like the drug dealer kids, the you know, the preppy kids. Like, I was cool with all those people because I didn't have a group. My group was everybody, you know, and that really is how I conduct my life. It's how I deal with like business, and you know, it's not discriminatory. I went to an art school when I was I've been at 3 schools. I got kicked out of a bunch of high schools. I got kicked out of 2 high schools. The second one that I went to was an art school, and I went for literary arts. I guess I didn't tell you that either. I went to a school for literary arts my sophomore and junior year of high school, and then I got kicked out of that school. That was my second school, and I went to a 3rd school. Yeah.
No, that's fair. I mean, it's kind of like when did it tail, and you're like, yeah, I got kicked out of school.
I got kicked out of
fair enough. Schools. I got kicked out of schools, but you turned out to be a wonderful person, and you went on to university, so it all worked out. And you've also podcasted for all this fucking time, which is pretty incredible. I keep in mind, we're 90 minutes in. We've tangented a bunch. Usually it takes forever to get the tangents going on. That's my favorite part, personally.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's just the flavor, right? But then we also bring it back to the story, and we're basically at, like, what? You're, like, early 20s in your story?
Yeah. 20s, yeah.
And you've just started your career for reals. So my question is, during the whole making of the whackness and all of this product to your accident, are you still like pursuing podcasting, and also are you like ingratiating into internet culture at this time and like learning the dynamics of that? And what's it, because I'm like, I only finished high school at like 2005, so I understand the 2010 and beyond version, we'll say. I kind of get 2008 a bit. Facebook was new, but like really I didn't have access to a computer at that point, so like, like for real 17 whatever. But like, so at that point in life, what's it like to be like trying to push your shit a little bit? Because that's also like an interesting context where we could look to the past and see what we could take from that for the future.
Man, it was really hard to, so you have a captive audience at first a couple years ago with Facebook, because like Facebook was, I remember I got on Facebook when I went to community college at the time, when you had to wait. There was a list on the front page that told you the schools that when there was actually schools that could only apply, you had to be in a school. And I remember seeing my community college come up, and I signed up, and I found out a bunch of my friends did. So I was like, hey, y'all haven't seen me in a while, but I have a radio show called The Tempo Tantrum. I have like rap and R&B and rock and whatever, electronic. And, you know, I really tried to push that through Facebook. And that's the way that it worked for me at that point. And then sometimes I would just like put it in a forum. You know, you'd be like in a forum, and I'd be like, hey, check this podcast out. This is me and my playlist of songs. And that happened. I had a talking podcast with a friend called The Ron and John Show. My friend, a Korean American dude named John, where we just kind of talked about our experiences. He was a heavy duty Kobe fan, and I hated Kobe. I love Kobe, but you know, I hated him because he was so damn good, and you just get sick of seeing people win. And we just talked. And that was like the beginning of the talking aspect of podcasting.
That's amazing. So you're like basically an early pioneer of the podcasting era that I come and piggyback onto way later on and build up my whole thing on.
Culture vulture, man. You're culture vulture.
It's fact.
That's not true. I'm just fucking.
If we're talking podcast culture, you can make that claim. You can really make the claim that I treated podcast heavily like a culture vulture.
You stole.
Absolutely. Yeah, man, I just jumped on that. I don't fuck about podcasts. I just took from that shit. Hip hop, I
No,
give no
no.
fucks about.
Oh,
No, but like
I'm fucking with you, man.
I think I have a podcast. I don't know what to fucking call my shit. It's
This is a
on
podcast.
I mean,
This is a
it
podcast,
is
man.
because I export it to podcast networks. But if I did not, it's arguably just a video format, some other term, technicality bullshit. Because like it's kind of ambiguous now. A podcast is a recorded audio file of a conversation, whatever it is. It's a long form, episodic audio file. I looked this up for the distinction of shit. So kind of like this is a podcast, but it's also a live experience that's video driven, because that is part of podcasting now, but it's not part of, anyway. I'm just getting into technical nuances for the sake of shitness. It's like it's podcast, but like I'm already going, how do we do this in VR? Like I don't want to like put myself in a box and move the fuck away from video on demand. That's the past and shit. Yeah, it's there. You can watch the history, but let's talk the future.
Yeah, podcasts are interesting, man. Like it all. So comedy is like that too. Like everything's like comedy until you see something that's different. Like, have you listened to Dave Chappelle's podcast, The Midnight Miracle? That's a podcast, and if you listen to it, it's like this melting pot of songs and random rants and cool editing, and that also can be considered a podcast. It's like it's I love that something doesn't have to be strapped down to the constraints or whatever ideas this person has.
And I think,
but this is a podcast.
I agree for the sake of it, but I also think it's because like I do release it episodically in an audio format to all the podcast networks, so it totally works like that. But let's say I didn't keep a whatever, then it would just be a live radio show, which is not a podcast. And so there is a level of distinction between there that is going to have to get made one day with this kinds of content in the future. Also, how evergreen is your shit? How much is it a gated one-off experience? Anyway, this whole world's going in some fun places with the blending of internet. But I agree with you. It's a podcast-ish format. Like I definitely made my album reviews like a podcast. And then I decided this interview show is more like live radio that is podcastable.
Yeah. The live element's always fun, man. It's why I like podcasting. It's why I like, it's not live, but you're recording a thing that hopefully is as unedited as possible. Hopefully, to me.
Facts.
I'm a big fan of that. And then, which also, stand up is like the freest form of that kind of thing. And I love that, like a baby. I love podcasting and I love stand up, which became a big part of my life.
But I really love, that's what I love about Twitch. Just to bring it to there for a second. Twitch is, I think, a direction that a lot of this amalgamates at. It's just the live, long form, unfiltered, insert what you do, which is kind of like podcasting moved into YouTube and had a funny little middle ground with the commentary community on those videos where they were just doing gameplay footage and were effectively short podcast episodes with Call of Duty style guys running in circles and shit. So it kind of went through a thing where they needed this video element, and then Twitch just kind of took it in the whole next direction. But it's not so much meant to be episodic. But if you look at Twitch, everything you do there is replicatable in a VR space universe. Or an AR space universe. So it's I think the focus is going more towards that raw and authentic. Who the fuck, anybody can really create a polished product with enough time. Now, how many people can make a polished product live? You can't fake the skill you're bringing to this in the way that you're doing your shit.
That's true, man.
That's true. I feel like people are attracted to the live experience more and more as the stock footage era dominates YouTube.
And I can't stress to you how, I mean, it sounds tribal. It is to be in a room. And I've done this a lot. You're in a room and there's 30 people in a small room looking at you to entertain them, and then you're just fucking around. It's like a magic to it, man. It's absolute magic to things happening in the moment because people feel it. People feel it. Like, you know, when somebody gets up and they're like, hey, have you ever heard the one about the dog that went to hell? You're like, you know, you hear those, you hear jokes all the time, but when something feels loose and crazy, it feels different. It feels magic, and it's something that you can't really replicate. And when you try to talk to somebody about it, doesn't feel quite as special. They have to be there. That's why when people record live concerts, you're like, what the fuck is this? Why are you recording Beyonce from 500 feet away? Like, what are you doing? Like,
I can tell you the one reason I ever did that was for myself.
Yes. Okay. So that makes sense to me, because you wanna call back that feeling that you had. But like, if you post it, like,
well, then I'm also posting it to flex. Cause fuck that.
Okay. Well, okay. Now, if do you have a wristwatch in the view of the what you got to do is wristwatch in the view of the concert, super flexing, and then the reflection should also have your diamond earrings in the reflection. So you're quadruple flexing.
I might not be like flexing materialistically, but I'm gonna flex experientially as much as I fucking can, because that's what life's about to me. So yeah, if I'm at that concert and you're not, and I know at least 14 of my homeboys wish they were there, fuck that. Yeah. FOMO, motherfuckers. I put up this whatever. And say what you will. Like, look, I'm not gonna do that for everything. But for some shit, it's fun as fuck. Like, fuck that. I have a computer that can run Cyberpunk with great graphics, and it didn't crash.
Excuse me. I had to get a console for that game. I have an Xbox Series X, and I have a PlayStation 5, and I run my games on that.
But I know that when I said that 6 months ago, I got in trouble on the internet because they were not happy with me.
Damn, man. Oh.
Come on, I had so much fun with it. I was like, yo, the PS5 is the poor man's console. I ran that until people got mad though. So I had to
get real mad about stuff like that.
Run that shit back a little bit. I was like, this might not be the right look for what I'm trying to do with my life. Damn. But in my heart and soul, I enjoyed that a lot. And
that's nuts, man.
I just finished my last ending play, like all of it. The story is done for me, and then Cyberpunk, I did it. It took me from then till now for $90. What an amazing cash value, right?
Congratulations. I need to get back into that game. It was hard. We got all those bug fixes, and I just gave up on it. So it's just sitting on my hard drive.
All I'm saying is, like, it's not about the game. It's about how amazing this world is. I would probably just wait till fucking the DLC comes out, because it was kind of, there's some hollowness to it. I'll give the haters some credit, but I'm just going to go walk through this game now and do a lore exploration series on the graph in each region.
Yeah, okay.
Because I think that's worth 1 million views in the future.
Damn, that's dope.
But it's actually just that cool. That's how much effort went into making the graph in every region so distinct to each region. And I'm like, bro, that is like a level of art that like nobody's giving love to while they're shitting on how blurry the people are and how stupid I'm like, fuck out of here. Look how beautiful this game is. Anyway, I could talk about Cyberpunk all day, but that's not that interesting to many people as I've come to see.
It's not wrong with that, man.
Nah, but so what happens after the whackness comes out? And then the car accident, and then you recover. And
I start working in retail. That happens to be run by Steve Jobs, and creativity becomes a different thing for me. It becomes like I'm around apples. I'm around a lot of Macs, and I realized like people are just making things. I was like teaching old ladies how to edit videos. I was teaching old ladies how to use iPhones and iPads and stuff like that. And I realized that like more than anything in the world, your technology is a tool to create things and preserve things, and it represented something different to me. Like the simplicity, people talk about the simplicity of Apple and technology in general. The simplicity is because it makes it easier for you to do it. So like if an older person is like, I don't know how to use this thing, but like you bring up the phone app and there's just this button, you press that button, that's it. You know, like I've taught old people for years how to use technology. And then let me just say older. I don't want to say old because that's just
Oh my gosh.
shitty.
I understand what you're saying though. I used to do over the phone blind tech support for old people. That's what it is. I know exactly who you mean.
Yeah, because there's like a curiosity. You know what I realized too, man? There's a curiosity that the older community has. It's not that they don't want to learn technology. It's that they don't want to get embarrassed. They don't want you to treat them like shit. They want to learn. Right. I would be, look, bro, I would be in those classes teaching people how to use something, right? Like they're like, nobody's ever talked to me like a human being before. They would come back and be like, look, I went to Paris. I have these photos I took. I organized them. I have some music under it. Check this out. Like, so you would see the reward of treating people fairly, treating people like human beings, is this blossoming creativity. And that I mean, it's a weird thing that I learned that at the Apple store, but that was a pretty transcendent moment too, because like I was around all this expensive technology, but also like I was learning that you could do a ton with that technology if you wanted to. You know, it didn't have to be an Apple, but I happened to be at an Apple store at the time. So
yo, it's super nifty that you bring that up. My company makes a photo editor, and part of my day job, it's nobody's favorite photo editor, and they'd rather I don't mix up brands, whatever. But like it's whatever. But you know what? 3 or 4 of my singles that shouldn't have been made by me, album covers, were made with that photo editor, and it allowed me to do that. So big ups to it. Anyway, we got this community of old people who make art with our program. And
wow.
Really, like, yeah, there's this Facebook group, and my team has to like watch it and shit. So it's my job to like look at it, and you just watch what's crazy is the difference between the France and the US group. Anyway, so cultural differences between the art they make, and this the fact that I just clicked like, yo, I was talking to like my team, and I'm like, these people are making art with our program. Like, how huge, man. Fucking cool is that?
That's really cool.
And they're all mostly old as shit, without being rude. But like, they're kind of old where you think they hate technology, but they hate talking to you about technology.
Yeah, that's what it is. They don't hate technology. They hate you because you talk to them like they're pieces of shit. That's what it is, man. I didn't know that until I started teaching people how to use technology. It was just that they want to be treated like a human being. And you start to realize also that they're just old kids. Like, we're just older kids. Like it seems like there's this big thing until man.
That's the best way I've ever heard anyone put it, though. That's well put.
It's really true, man. Like, we are all old kids, and they just happen to be older kids. People deal with things almost exact same way as they did when they were in their 20s. So, like, when you see the humanity in people, that helps you understand how people get along, how people work. And once you start accepting about the world is that people are just old kids, your world gets a lot easier. Because like you're like, why did this person flip out? Oh, they're a fucking 5-year-old that happens to be 45. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like it's super simple. Like, they're like, why are people flipping out in the streets? People have been in the house. Remember how it used to be before you went to recess? You're like, I'm gonna flip some shit over. You go to recess and you're throwing rocks at people. That's the way that it works, man. It's simple shit. It's simple shit.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I'm gonna be real with you. I wasn't throwing rocks at people, but I hear you. I do hear you.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
but it's true. Like, yo, I'm sitting here like all willing to go do things I would not normally be willing to go do. Like, Montreal had like 5 or 6 straight months of curfew. Like, straight up, don't leave your house after 8 p.m. for a while, then 9:30. So if like for months, it's like the grocery store wasn't open till 10 and 11 no more. And that shit changes your fucking life for a minute. And it was really weird. But then all of a sudden, it opened up and we're just all in the park. Like, and I'm like, you know what? I don't drink, but I'm going to take a sip tonight. You know, like.
Right. Yeah, he's like, man.
And it's like, those are the fucking moments you end up having because you've just fucking been pent up for like a year and a half of just this, like, from, dude, the amount of time I've spent in this room. I love it, though. Conversations like this are a huge part of, I guess, everything now. Because as much as, like you said before, like, you don't get the full live energy, etc., etc. What I've learned about a 10-person Zoom call with rappers rapping, you get an 80% good version of the live energy.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not like 100, but it's not shit. So I'm with it. It's kept me alive. But yeah, no. So I totally get where you're coming from with the simplification of it.
Oh.
So like, what happens after that whole period of life with the retail? So you're doing the retail. Oh, you're in the app store. Then you got the crazy tangent about working as a genius. Fair enough. I think.
Well, so
were you called geniuses then, or you were?
So I wasn't. I wasn't
Oh.
a genius. I had this weird in between sort of thing where like they realized that I had the ability to soften the blow of somebody going from like Android to an iPhone or like Windows phone to an Apple phone, and it, you know, I kind of became this like transitional dude for people that were like melting down. So, you know, I was like selling computers, but the heart of my job was just helping people transition. That sounds wild, but it was a lot. That was legitimately most of my job was teaching, you know, having iPhone, iPad, and some slight music editing, video editing stuff, then selling computers. And that was kind of I was a specialist, but I wasn't a specialist. If you saw me on the floor, I wasn't a specialist.
No, but you say that, but like, I read the business books where the guys talk about why you did that and why your job was like that by design, so that Apple could sell $6,000 worth of product to every one of those people across their lifetime minimum.
Right. Yeah.
And they did that because they'll remember how Ron James was there teaching them how to photo edit, and nobody was doing that at the other guy's store. And you probably didn't have to charge.
No, yeah. So they would come in and they were like, so I learned all this for free? I'm like, yeah. And then they buy $10,000 worth of stuff.
And nobody else was doing that, though. And that's how come Apple has more cash on hand than countries. And it's really crazy, because they invest in that level. Yo, Apple's like, if I'm not mistaken, their like warranty policy for a minute was, if the shit got broke, we'll just replace it for a year, and then it's fuck you. Why? Because it was cheaper than trying to solve issues.
Right. Yeah, man, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, so yeah, what happens after the Apple ventures, and are you still like podcasting and musicking over this time?
Yeah, so I meet Steve and John, who so Steve Ritter and I became really close friends in Apple, and some of it was just our like connection to movies. So we decided we were going to create a podcast, and we recorded the first couple out of my mom's basement and called it Movie Schmovie, and we're now on our 300.
I saw that.
So yeah, so I mean, you know, it's 300 over 10 years, but it's, you know, we kind of pace them out. But yeah, I've been podcasting.
Hold on, 300 or anything is just incredible, my guy. Congratulations.
It's thank you, man. We are huge fans of cinema, and I've learned a lot from them, and they've learned a lot from me. And so Steve and I were doing it for about 6 months, and then John came in. Maybe it was a year. Maybe we did it for a year, and then my friend John, who also worked at the Apple store, came in, and then we started pretty much the form that we have now for nine years at this point. But 10 years he's been involved as well. So yeah, so throughout my life after that point, movie schmovie was always a part of it. So no matter where I was in my life financially, I always came back to the podcast. We always did it. I always tried to find movies to watch. So I did movies. I did movie schmovie, and then I started doing stand up around the same time that I started movie
Right.
schmovie.
Before we talk about stand up, can you just give
Sure.
us like a little synopsis of why we should all fuck with the movie schmovie?
Yeah, man. Movie schmovie is probably one of the more honest podcasts that is three people who couldn't be more different just talking. And that is, to me, is the world. It means the world to me that three guys that just are in three different places in our lives can talk about movies, how we connect, how we deal with life is movies. So yeah, movie is one of the better things you're gonna listen to.
Love it. I know it's in that like link tree thing. I know it's not link tree,
Yeah.
but link tree thing you use
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you
yeah.
have like
Link
with all your
link
stuff.
tree adjacent.
Yeah, so that's been popping around the interview chat for every like 20 minutes or so. It'll also be linked below. So everything you do is linked below so that the people can see it because you made it all convenient in a single link.
Yeah, yeah.
So fucking great.
Yeah, man, links.
Yo, can I get
Links
this guy
will help you.
flowers one more time? He's the only person. Because, I know all these link trees are so fucking easy to update on the fly. He's the only person I've seen that has used it to promote both his content and his upcoming events. And he put my shit in his fucking link. And I was like, nobody does that shit. So that's so cool.
Yeah, man. It's a big deal. I saw the Tizzy interview. I really enjoyed it. So I was like, man, let me get my shit together. Let me get a couple people to check it out. And even if they aren't watching it live, they'll probably check it out later, which is really cool.
Honestly, there's 10 people here, which is pretty fucking incredible at this time. And it's gone as low as 7. I saw I hit 11. But it's been like in this hoverance of people, which
hello.
The chat keeps going. So it's like, to me, it's a blessed one. I mean, even if nobody else watches, for me, the conversations are still like, they're so valuable. And then they're all documented. And they help me answer this one very big question. How do you know? Talk to all these people. Bro, go watch my shit. Then come back.
Yeah, man.
And it's super helpful to have that in your bag a little bit.
Hell yeah, man. It's important.
But nah, so I really I just appreciate that thing. So you have your podcast and then you start to get into comedy. And I know that you're still doing comedy because I saw Ronald James is booked on your Instagram, which is very like recent picture. It was the second one on the top row.
Right.
So how did your comedy career start? How does that like become a thing?
So Tizzy and our cousin Valence Michael had been doing stand up for about a year around that time, and he's like, so Tizzy and Valence are two of my favorite people in the world that happen to be my cousins. And when I was a kid, Tizzy and I are a couple years apart. I think 5 years apart, 6 years apart. And Valence and I are 2 years apart. So we spent a great deal of our childhood together. Like his aunt took care of me as a kid. And we laughed together a ton. And he decided after we took an improv class together that he was going to take up stand-up. So he was doing it. I watched him bomb. I watched him like make a whole room of people cheer. And I was just in awe. I would just come support him. Then one day he was like, Ronald, you have to come do stand-up. Like, you're fairly funny dude. Like, you can make people laugh. You're all right at best at making people laugh. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I got scared, and to make myself feel better, I signed up for an open mic, and I invited 50 people to a small bar in downtown Baltimore, and 70 came. So I had never told jokes on stage ever, and I had a 5-minute set. That was, I have it on tape. I have a video of it. It was okay, man. It was okay. It was okay, and I was so proud. But the host started the set with like basically like I put it on my Instagram, but he essentially said like this is the best that you'll ever feel in your life, and you'll be trying to chase that high for the rest of your life. Ladies and gentlemen, Ronald James. And I had to do my set after that, knowing that this was the highest high that I was gonna. He was fucking wrong. But it was a real crazy thing to tell a person before they do their first set. And I did
Holy
fairly
shit.
well. I made people laugh, which created this bug. I like kept doing it. So
That's true though. I honestly can't remember my first performance because I was so nervous. I ran out after and almost threw up. So I've had many better performances after that I loved way more.
It's fucking it like that level of nervousness you can't really replicate. Like it I always take a shit before I do stand up. Like it's just like my stomach is in knots. I have to take a shit before I do stand up.
I can't eat much ahead of time.
Yeah.
Like my stomach's basically like empty, and then after stage I'm just fucking starving and I eat the world, which is not a great habit. But like, because if I get all like bloated and shit, I get lazy, and so like I have to like be careful and not. If I'm gonna eat, it's gotta be super light shit.
Yeah.
I gotta be, because I'm in my 30s now, right? Like I gotta be cognizant. I can't be getting bloated. That's
it
not
hits you different, man.
It's not, but it's also like, in your heart and soul. Now you gotta lie about why the fuck your performance was trash, because you can't be like, I was bloated because I ate some fucking garlic potatoes and I shouldn't have. Like, you can't say that shit. No.
The cool part is like, the cool part is like, in stand-up I can and I have done it before. That's I have fair. Been like, yo, I just took a massive shit. You'd have to excuse.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
I mean, I respect that, but I mean, like, with the, I don't think I can get away with it with music. They're like, bro, this is a physical performance, and you just like, well, because I mean, I could like just suck, but like at the end of the day, I've done performances where I can't move right because of XYZ reasons, size, food, intoxication. And honestly, your energy is what the crowd is feeding off of entirely. So like, if you're not able to, I remember when I used to do certain album reviews, people would like make this commentary where like, if you can't sound excited about the shit you're talking about, why should anybody be excited about you? To which, fair enough. The counter is, I didn't always feel excited about the stuff I was talking about. But the other part of it is, they're right. Like, if you want people to give a shit, that's why I pivoted heavy to people. It is so easy for me to be interested in people.
Right. Yeah.
I don't have to, my preferences aren't there. I'm just curious. You're like, you do shit in your life. This is fun.
Yeah, it's like my idea is like, you shouldn't do anything you're not slightly passionate about. Like, you shouldn't touch anything that you aren't passionate about. I mean, besides work, obviously you got to work to pay bills, but like outside of that, you should have things that you're very passionate about that you could speak highly about at the drop of a dime. If somebody asks me right now how I feel about anything that I'm doing, I could probably give you a decent answer. I won't always be as high energy as I am sometimes. Like, I might be like, shit. I might say shit a lot. I don't know why I would say shit. But I will say that I do try to keep a level of enthusiasm about the things I do. That's what keeps me going. It's important.
But then sometimes you book when you start and you book a lot of things too quickly, and I used to do shit like 13 videos in 14 days just to like, cause I came into YouTube right when they started talking about how posting every day is the move, and I'm making these like 90-minute videos every day practically.
That's exhausting, man.
It's definitely hard to remain as enthusiastic. But once I got through it, oh my God, I can do this almost every day now.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
that's
like a
dope.
fucking superpower. But I'm not gonna say that anything I produced in 2017 is like high quality content for the same reasons you would watch anything I do today, and that it just gets better over time as it comes along. But even my like
Yeah.
early interviews are probably pretty fucking trash. I had people be like, "Bro, you're a rapper talking to rappers. Where's your fucking personality?" And I'm
Oh
like,
man.
you're making very valid points. These are strong personalities I am dealing with, and I must adapt and create this more powerful force, or rappers won't play ball.
Right, right.
Fair enough. And it worked.
That's
But, like, it was
that's
all.
nuts, man.
Eh.
That's pretty nuts. Like, it 20, and especially talking as frequently as you have to talk. I just thought about something. Another way that I learned how to talk to myself was I did traffic and weather for XM for a couple of years,
No
and that,
shit. That's so
yeah.
cool.
So I was like that voice where you're like, make a right, like avoid this on, Sepulveda. It was this Sepulveda, the Sepulveda.
No
They
idea.
used to kill me, man. They used to kill me for the LA pronunciations. They would call me like, that used to be what made me want to quit doing traffic and weather. I would mispronounce a name in California, and a truck driver would be like, "You must not be from LA. Fuck you. You're mispronouncing all the streets and the highways." So I was like, I'm just learning, man. Like they would call in. That was a thing. Like you could call in. And I would say things like, there was a accident with a motorcyclist versus a car, and guess who won? I would say that on the air, and that they would call and tell me that they thought that was funny, which wasn't. Now that I think about it, not super funny to say on air, but you talk to yourself, man. You're in a
Yeah.
booth for 8 hours straight,
Yeah.
overnight.
I mean, like, you just kind of learn the vibe of it. Like,
Yeah.
it's. I mean, I learned a lot doing tutorial videos and webinar training. Like, you know what it's like to practice for a 40-minute webinar presentation? It's exactly like doing a high school presentation that you would do for 40 minutes. That's
Right.
exactly what it is. But when you're
Right.
doing the script part and you spit in that shit, you might spend, and this is day job shit, I might spend sometimes 4 hours in a room just talking. And I'm getting paid, right? Just to talk to, like, fucking, and click over here now, and then right click, and then I want you to choose that option over there, and just that bullshit for like hours and hours and hours of just talking. And then I would go do videos after work, and like, so just like, I don't know, I'm super shit in person though. Put me in a room with like 5 people and watch how I shut the fuck up or I dominate the conversation, and there's not a lot of middle ground.
I have some advice for you. Don't let anybody dim your light, King. Don't let anybody dim your light.
I'm not even worried a little bit, my dude. But sometimes it's really good to watch. And it's really good to just watch what other people do.
Yeah, hell yeah, man.
Like, I don't have to always talk.
Yeah, I hear that.
It was a big process. I had to watch myself on camera to see how little I listened in 2017, because I used to do it with people more frequently. And then it really was just like everything everyone ever complained about me in my whole life was in my face, and I'm editing it.
So you'd be like, somebody would be like, and that's the day my cat died. And you'd be like, anyway, so when's your album coming out? Because I'm looking forward to that.
It wasn't like interviews back then, but it would be like the equivalent of that bullshit on this album review, but with regard to my co-host opinions. Or I'd be like, kind of like, you're fucking wrong, I'm right, and all sorts of bullshit like that. And then you watch yourself do that for years, and you're kind of like, yo, maybe I'm an asshole. I gotta work on this delivery shit. And then you work on the delivery shit if you're like, try, I guess. And now it's just simpler. It's simpler to be like, nah, Ron James is fucking an interesting dude. When he speaks, I should shut the fuck up.
Thanks, man. That's a really nice thing for you to say.
But you are. Cool. Like, off the jump, you were interesting with it. You just casually threw in bullets, talked about social politics, made sure it started off the jump with a fucking bang. And I really appreciated that. And then you just kept it running and running with fucking interesting.
Thanks, man. So, thanks for not holding out. Okay. I'm gonna keep saying it. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not.
I'm
That's
not
fine,
a
man.
much of a okay.
No, listen, man. People do it a lot. People like I now have the Holdiverse because I'm trying to learn how to roll into things better.
Okay.
It's the Holdiverse. We called an album Holdies because we had oldies, and somebody said Holdies, and I'm like, nope, that's the kind of shit that would. No, I'm gonna roll into it more. So it's just not my favorite, but if everyone else loves it, that's like, come on, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Nah, I mean, life is. I'm not a simple person, so it's really. I know a lot of people in art aren't simple people, and a lot of us have a lot more in common than a lot of us want to admit.
Yeah.
So the more we can talk about stuff like whatever complications, it kind of creates a level of okayness about it all.
Yeah.
Because them 20-year-olds is mad comfortable talking about this shit. We all gotta learn how to catch up. Is more my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
But
as long as they don't have the YouTube voice, you know what I'm talking about. The hi guys, like and subscribe. You're gonna want to hear this. The tips. It. That voice. I can't do that voice.
I can do the customer service version, where it's like, hold on. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Please have yourselves a wonderful day. I had to learn how to do that shit. Like
Holden, subscribed. You convinced me.
But it was for work.
I want to listen to discuss content.
I had to make 208 videos in 208 weeks for how to use a PDF editor.
Jesus.
It was one of the greatest accomplishments of my life, but it's related to work, so it's not like cool.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's not what I want to be known for here.
I get that. Voiceover work is hard, man. It's like take after take after take. It's just, You
have to learn voices. Like, you actually have to learn your voice and learn. You have to it's like creating presets, like when you're doing the mixing on your beats. But you have to kind of learn how to create your own vocal presets. Like, this is not my natural voice. Nobody likes my natural voice. But if you ever want to see my natural voice, come to the part of the stream before I go on cam with people, and I'm like talking like this, like, yo, what's up, everybody? And I'm basically in the most low energy. Like, I probably shouldn't be on cam, but fuck it. If people talk to me, I talk back. I sound like ass. But then it's like the show starts, and now I know this is like, I gotta be cognizant of mic placement and all that bullshit. I don't know. It's just kind of what it is.
I get that.
But
I think we all have like a perceived, like, that's wild, man. It's wild to think about. I guess you think about us as like just people in the world, survivors trying to, like, back in the day when there was no society and we would just kind of survive, we would have a tone that we would try to use to let people know that you were coming in peace. It's like a octave that we choose, that we figured out through testing. That's a good octave to use when you want to try to appear safe to people, or like, I'm not trying to attack you, I'm not trying to be hostile. This is my
body language, like exposing yourself is like, my chest is open. If you want, like, I'm not, it's, I love thinking about this shit.
It's really important. I mean, not to get super specific, but like, as a black dude in a place where people get shot all the time, you do kind of start presenting yourself in a way that feels not as threatening, or like, you may not be a threat, but they think you're a threat. So you have to present yourself in whatever way you think is safer for them, which is a very strange concept, and a thing that I feel like black people deal with all over the world that's not really talked about quite as openly, because nobody can really tell you racism is a thing except for the people that are oppressed in that area. Like, I would never go to like a skinny person and be like, yo, how are the crab cakes? I want to go to the person that cannot breathe and is like slumped over their seat, and I'm like, yo, how do the crab cakes taste here? I want that person's opinion. I want the person that has diabetes to tell me how the food is. Does that sound weird? I feel like I'm getting too.
I feel like I get exactly what you're coming from. Montreal has a strong culture of talking about it. I don't know how
Mm,
effective it is, but over the 2020, it was really interesting to see white people check white people for the first time on Facebook. So
mm,
that shit happened. It's again Montreal. I can't speak for other places, and Canada is not the same. But I think there's a progression where more and more conversations where people do bring it up happen. Like fuck it, anybody can talk about that on my show. I'm like
mm,
really all about leveraging my platform to bring up voices as much as I could. I mean,
mm.
my experiences are not that. Um, I did go to a protest and watch the police kind of engineer some shit that looked funny for photo ops and then looked like it could go real foul like not long after. So that was an interesting experience, but like, the fuck can I really talk about it? Except that it's real, and there's a memorial for a kid that got shot by the cops about 1.5 kilometers from my apartment, and I bike past it a lot, so I think about this topic a lot. Cause
Jesus, man, I'm sorry to hear that. That
I'm,
sucks.
it's just kind of a real thing. I only bring it up so that people know it's Montreal too, because I don't
Yeah,
think
yeah,
people like to accept that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but nah, I mean, I never thought about the idea of how much you'd have to focus on body language over that. That
yeah,
wasn't a consideration, and you're right, it should be talked about. And even the impact of how it's going to. So this kind of like taps into that. They're taking the manliness away from black males conversation that might really be like, yo, they're saying that the only way to exist in this world is to be a non threatening figure.
yeah. I mean, to some people, yeah, that's the only way that it exists. And you know, it's even weirder. Sometimes the threat can be a little more nuanced. Like my wife and I have this experience with traveling abroad where like when you're in a space with other with white people, they tend to try to figure out why you're in the same place at the same time. It doesn't make any sense to them. So sometimes you'll be sitting in a place where like you're paying the same thing they're paying because there's no way that they're paying more and you're paying less. It's like that's the way it works. We're in a place where everything costs the same, right? And somebody will try to play like 21 questions with you. Hey, what's going on, guys? Like, what are you guys doing here? What brings you here? Which is a fine question, right? But then when people try to get into what you do for a living, it's like, I need to know what steps this person took to end up in the same place that I am. It's a really weird thing. It happens a ton of times with us, and it's very much like it's a control. It's a form of control because you have to figure out how we're in the same place at the same time. Which, but
But there's also all
it's
the subtext of it. Like when you start asking why do you have to know that, is because like
yeah,
you're gonna feel a way if it's one path, and you're gonna feel a different way if it's another path, and there's right and wrong options. And
yeah,
so I went to a really black high school, and then I discovered what middle class white people were like at work. That's the group. Like I don't mean it like in whatever, but it's just my experiences, and
yeah.
I like heard a lot of things like in that vein of shit. So it doesn't surprise me at all that you're saying that, but I've never heard anybody talk about that before like that exactly. Like that's an experience I've personally never heard.
It's super strange, man. Like you just
So yeah, thank
it's
you, I guess.
no problem, man. Like I that's a lot of like stand up for me became a release for stuff like that. Like I had this joke where I talked about like a woman like walking across the street when she saw me or something like that. This is when I first started doing stand up. And I was like, I have a pair of Japanese salvage denim on and a pair of Jordans that cost more than her purse. So I don't understand why she switched. If anything, I should be afraid of her. Anyway, that was the joke. But it was unpolished and shitty, but really was based on a situation that happened where I was like on the street and you realize that like people can't differentiate. This is how racist people are. They can't differentiate danger in the form that danger really comes in. And this lady kind of reacted poorly to me being near her. And that could be any number of things. Sure, she could have had some trauma that happened to her before, or my first choice, ding ding, racism. That normally is what it is, man. Like people compartmentalize their ideas and take it out on you sometimes in public. So it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I went and started reading about the history of
Mm,
like racism after the George Floyd incident. My girlfriend bought a lot of books,
mm,
basically centered around, I don't know, that's the best way to put it, racism as a topic across history through a lot of angles, from prison system shit to like slavery shit to like a lot of 1930s like kids talking about growing up in that like there was a 14-year-old girl story that we read. I don't remember the name of the book. Maybe it's Black Girl Lost. And she's like 14 at the same time as Emmett Till is 14 when that shit goes down, and she's in the, like
ooh,
a town over type shit.
right.
And you're like reading about it and you're realizing that they're dropping stats like 5% of people are in the Klan on record. And at the time you run some stats on America and realize how many, it's like, or they ran numbers, I worked it out to 5% of Americans were on record on the Klan, and you're like, yo, that's not like a small number of
It's
Americans
not
and
a
shit.
small.
And you're realizing this is like our grandparents' age,
Yeah.
right? And like that like kind of connected, and so I mean, when I look at it, it's like, yo, but that means that the lawmakers, the politicians, the media, because that's who these people were. They were a political party, right? Like they
Yeah.
fucking took over some shit for like a long era in a
Yeah.
huge part of the world. So
Yeah,
a
this
lot
wasn't
of
like
these,
Avengers Endgame. This wasn't like when Thanos died. Like there wasn't a finger snap and then all the bad people disappeared. They just they were shamed into hiding. You know, like racism is enforced in very nuanced ways. But the version of racism that I said is magnifique, the version that was very like outright and shitty, which it still is, but as you know, when you could just talk crazy on the TV, right? That version of racism changed forms, right? And then these people got into the law and started affecting things in weird ways, like, you know, redlining and things like that.
oh, that is a serious.
I've
Can you just? I know that not everybody knows what redlining is, so you should break down
sure.
redlining right quick.
So redlining is basically the a way that's used to weaponize, you know, groups of people being in areas where, like, okay, so I'll give you an example. If you're in a school district, right, that's primarily white at one point, and then that dynamic changes over the years, right? So like maybe, you know, because of this large Ghanaian population, this area has more black people. Over the 10 years that since it was a ton of white people, the whole district, the school district will change to serve a situation where all the black people will be put together and all the white people will be put together. And then housing does that too, where like people get priced out of things. It is the intentional process of separating people through sometimes literal lines.
Yo,
I mean, it's go ahead. Sorry, I'm sorry.
it is like a heavily documented thing that came up in like 4 or 5 of those books, and it's just one of those things that like, yo, they like heavily studied it in Chicago's housing market, like in like a lot of and it's like policymakers would go out of their way to just allow it to basically keep black people in one neighborhood and white people in other neighborhoods, and then
Yeah,
manipulate property sales and laws surrounding that in such a way where the laws of eviction and everything were manipulated to support certain things, where then they were illegally allowed to ban black people from certain neighborhoods. So
yeah,
you would not be, if you were black and you wanted to buy a home, you could only buy it in one of these neighborhoods, and if you couldn't go to the white only neighborhood. And
yeah.
so like it was a lot of real shit like that was done by like city official policies less than 100 years ago. So when you
It's
think
crazy,
about
man.
like the actions that get ingrained from, my mom taught me this and my grandma was always like that kind of behaviors, where in my experience dating a woman, half of everything is from her mom and her grandmother, if
Yeah,
you really listen to her. And that's every guy, and every guy I've talked to has co-signed this, so I'm assuming it's pretty universal. There's a lot of hand-me-down traditional shits, so if people are unaware of how much of the hand-me-down traditional norm shits are ingratiated with hidden racism, then how much do we really know has been stamped out or even checked out or documented is kind of like what I'm left with.
Yeah. And then language, like, people are attacked for language. Like, if you have slang, if you have things like that. So the best thing that ever happened to me in my whole entire life was when I was in college, when I was getting that degree in radio, was my teacher gave us this assignment to transcribe a couple of like people of all sorts, like your grandmother, somebody on TV, then like an interview that you saw, like 4 or 5 different places that had nothing to do with each other. And he didn't say transcribe just the good things, like everything, the uhs, the ums, and all that stuff, right? So I transcribed it, and he was like, what is the commonality between all these things? And I was like, I don't know, like a lot of ums and uhs. He's like, no, all of the English is broken, but one is perceived as better. People speak in broken English all the time, and backwards and weird stuff.
Woo!
There's a
That's big.
perception that black broken speech is different than white broken speech. And this is like educators who speak with broken English. That's the weird thing about racism. It's nuanced and weird, and people who have a higher social standing in society, in this whatever situation you're in, their speech is regarded as more valuable than others. So like if you're putting it against, sure, yeah, if you're putting it against another form of broken English that they want you to learn, sure. Yes, I do speak with broken English sometimes. Or my friends or family or
Dude,
people
shit,
that I
like,
grew up
dude,
with.
you speak with such a high level of articulation that I
But you
feel
know what
like
I'm
my
saying, man?
English is
Like,
garbage.
but all I'm saying is like, people I grew up with, I'm from Baltimore. I grew up with a lot of people that aren't doing as well as I'm doing. And, the idea that their progress was stifled by a system that didn't believe in them is just, I got lucky. I got super lucky.
Honestly, though, like nothing you're saying is like unfactual. In my experience, I've learned that I'm unable to communicate the same way I do on these podcasts, and this whole environment as when I'm at work. If I were to even come with this accent, I could jeopardize the level of perceived professionalism in the eyes of a lot of my elderly colleagues. I don't know how to fully articulate it,
Oh,
but
I get what you're saying, man.
effectively, yo, you can't be dropping no yos up in the workplace. You can't be saying it like this. And I do when I get mad excited about topics and shit. I be all like fucking talking like this because the rapper mode kicks in, and now I'm spitting fucking whatever on Deborah's story from last Thursday. And or I'll drop a presentation like this because people fucking go ham when you do like a PowerPoint, but you spit it a little bit. You add a little flavor on it. And then I found out that Big Money wants the most boring shit in the world. Yes. And it's like, yo, so no style, no substance, no flavor, pure facts, pure numbers, pure emotionless shit. And it's like I had to learn a lot about transitioning into talking to the executive world. And it's like a language that, yo, you don't even learn it in university. They keep the language from you. And unless you speak the right language, you're not allowed to talk to the right people.
Damn, man.
It's a real
That's so
shit,
true.
Man.
That's real. Yeah, it's unfortunate, man. It's unfortunate that like class is, it plays such a big part in your progression or perception of class. It's a painful thing, that it's a lesson you learn, and that's why I don't hide who I am and where I come from. I may sound a certain way, but I come from, if I take you where I grew up, like it is what it is. It's not anything that I can hide. So you stay in your truth as frequently as possible,
and then you learn the code switch like a motherfucker.
You learn the code switch like a motherfucker.
Because if you don't learn the code switch, it's just harder. It's just way fucking.
It's harder. It's harder.
Like I could do the whole thing without saying fuck. I choose not to on my shit because I want to be comfortable if I'm gonna be live on the internet for excessive periods of time. But like, you gotta be able to do the clean version and all the other shit, or like, I feel like it's less professional. But like, I don't know. It's almost like it was forced upon me to learn these skills rather than it was any true desire, which is part of why I fucking am so attracted to this live unabridged format, and editing in a lot of ways bothers me because it's like, bro, my whole life is edited. I just want to be authentic with this shit, you know? Like, and I'm not against it. Look, I understand that not everybody might want to have a conversation about shit like rim jobs because I feel like rim jobs is an interesting topic while people are eating soup. And I had to learn that, okay? Like, I get it. Not everybody's mind operates like my mind, okay? Like, and I was like 26 and shit back in the day when I started in this adventure with this tier of people. So, it's cool. I'm an artist. I should keep that for the artist peeps who are okay with that kind of shit and just kind of segregate life into appropriate. But like, it is what it is. Not for real though. So what happens with Catch the Fade? Because I mean, it has to be around that point where y'all start doing the Catch the Fade. Also, I think you had another show you started, or no? You said you did a comic. We talked about the
Okay, thing. So I comedy. I started a creative podcast with my friend Dante called Branded, BRNDD.
That's just fire.
So we've talked to friends and like people that I never thought I'd ever speak to about the creative process, because I think it's really important that we demystify creativity, because as much as we have the technology to create things, there is a real blind spot for like the learning curve and all that stuff and how people get things going. And I forgot to mention, all the while I actually had a small clothing line called Status Apparatus that I had been doing throughout. Yeah, so like
when I was fashion designer too.
When I was 20, I started doing Status Apparatus, and then I started this like bootleg tee thing called T Jam Goods that I did during quarantine. Man, it sounds like I'm just piling on shit, but the way that my brain works.
This is the part of the interview where obviously we have to do a part 2 to like fully flesh out the second half of your life.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, there's no I'm sorry. This is just testament to you being one. I'm not even trying to rush you. I'm saying, don't you worry. Pile on. We'll expand. Whatever doesn't get talked about, there's the future.
Yeah. So what was the question? Let me get back to the question. I feel like I was just piling on.
No, now I want to talk about this clothing line shit because you said it's in conundrum to all the other shit. So it's like, okay, now we got to pause and run that back, and you got to walk us through this clothing line adventure.
So when I was a kid, when I was younger, I loved that I could earn money to buy clothes. Because when I was a kid, my mom wouldn't buy me Jordans. She wouldn't buy me like all the fancy stuff. So when I could work, I got my own stuff. But I noticed that when I went to the mall, I would always wind up having a shirt that somebody else had, which really bothered me. Like if I went to the downtown locker room and got a t-shirt that cost $35 and I wore it out, why the fuck does somebody have the same thing on that I have? So, I kind of I know that sounds weird, but I kind of voiced this to a friend. It doesn't,
because I talked to a guy in New York who's all about style, and literally that's how he lives his life, is by this mantra of fashion. But it makes a lot of sense to me what you're saying.
I'm not against that, but like I'm talking about like I'd see 5 people with the same shirt on, right? So then somebody introduced me to streetwear and boutiques and things like that. So like I would travel all over the place to find these places that the shirts cost the same as they did in downtown locker room, but they were distributed a little less. They had, they were also in sneaker shops, so like I was into sneakers because I couldn't afford them when I was a kid. When I was growing up, my mom didn't get them for me. And then when I worked, I could buy them. And then I wanted to get rarer things. So I got into sneaker culture, and then I got into streetwear. And I noticed that things didn't have to cost a ton. And I was like, man, I should make my own t-shirts. So I designed with a friend a couple t-shirts, and I started selling them. I'm actually wearing one of my first designs that went like...
You're gonna have to like stand up and show us that proper.
All right, so it's we believe in living under, this says, the Baltimore sun.
Yo, that's fire.
So Great. This is like, so this is the Believe thing is from a Baltimore campaign from back in the day. And the Baltimore Sun is actually a Baltimore Sun paper. And they actually tried to sue me for the usage of the t-shirt, for the usage of the logo on the t-shirt. And that's kind of what got me into designing. So I started Status Apparatus with my friend. He was petrified of the idea of me putting the logo on the t-shirt. And I was like, if the Baltimore Sun contacts us, that means we're doing it right. That was my idea. So we put the t-shirt out and it did really well. It sold like shit. Like anytime I put it into a store, this t-shirt sold like crazy. So I'm selling t-shirts and I get a phone call from a guy from the Baltimore Sun. And I'm like petrified, man. I'm like terrified because I'm like, I was talking all like shit to my friend, like if they catch us, they catch us. I'm like trying to be t-shirt Tupac, you know, I'm trying to be t-shirt Tupac spitting out the window. And the Baltimore Sun is like, we have a cease and desist that we get what it give you for the usage of the Baltimore Sun logo on your t-shirt. So I'm like, they asked me how many I've sold and I tell them how many I've sold. And they're like, we want to come up with a number to pay us for the usage of the logo. And they come back to me like a week later and it's like a small amount of money. And I'm like, I could pay for that. I could pay for it. They were like, we like the message. It's positive, but you can't sell anymore. And if you do, you got to come back to us. So I sold those t-shirts and then I stopped selling that design. And then I just kept selling t-shirts. That stopped a little bit and then it kept starting up and it's kind of been going back and forth.
Can we just tap into one amazing thing you did with your t-shirt design? Is you tapped into the lore of your community. Yo, I'm really fascinated by lore. I'm like trying to identify what the fuck Montreal lore is. Not Montreal with the French side and not Quebec. The Quebec.
Right.
I don't know what the fuck Montreal, the English side's lore is. So I'm like super fascinated about how you're able to tap into these elements, and by doing so, you're able to move the product because the community just wanted that regardless of who you were.
So think about it like this. Like, think about the things that make people happy. One of them is like iconology, like, you know, like logos and stuff like that. So think about like old restaurants that used to exist. Think about like city slogans that used to exist, like campaigns. You do stuff like that and you connect in a different way to people. So, you know, I figured that out through that experiment that, like, you know, that sort of thing works. I actually have, let me show you another thing.
Get it.
All right. So it's another thing. So I designed, so one of my favorite teams is the Baltimore Bullets, but I really like the Washington Bullets, who became the Washington Wizards. And the Baltimore Bullets had this like logo that I used on Status Apparatus, which is like the upside down, grab your hands, but the regular one was like this. It was like up this way.
Right.
But I flipped it and that sold really well. So you do things that remind people of things that they've known, and it sells. It tends to sell. You connect with people through stuff like that. I have a slight obsession with materials. I got that made from scratch in a factory overseas. I have an obsession with clothes, but like streetwear is my thing. But like I would love to make like different shit. But that's, you know.
So you were in the middle of everything else you were doing, pushing the streetwear the whole time.
The whole time in between that.
And how are you doing it? Is it like locally? You reach out to people like in the stores?
Man,
like,
that's a good question. So Holden, like I said, it's a utility thing, right? So the key to figuring out how things work are talking to the people that buy things. So I got cool with the buyers at a shop in Frederick, Maryland. And then I got cool with a shop owner in Baltimore, and I would come with designs and say, yo, what's selling right now? And here's some designs. What would make this something you would put in the shop? And this dude would just point at stuff and be like, look, this needs drop shadow, this text needs to be thicker, this needs to go here, and I would make those t-shirts and bring them back to him. I would have designs, so like it didn't feel like I was losing my designs. He would just tell me things to make them better. And I would print out just those shirts that he would suggest, bring them back, and they would sell them. So I learned how to make things that could sell through a buyer.
So if we bring that back to music land, you listen to the producer. You're the rapper who listened to the producer, and then his song sold pretty well.
Say that again?
You're like the rapper who listened to the producer, not the beat maker, the producer.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
And then
that's exactly what it is.
Listen to the advice. Your song became better, and after your song became better, it performed, and you achieved greatness in life.
Yeah.
But you did that with the world of fashion, and that's so fucking cool that you were just.
And it was small, man. Like I would ship, like look, I would ship things overseas and stuff like that. But it you know, I would kind of put it out every couple years and then pull back. And you know, I do it every couple years. I'll put something out that sells pretty well, and then I'll go into my cave again. And then I started up a t-shirt company during the course of the pandemic because I was literally not able. I was like, how am I going to supplement all of this gas and electric? Like, how am I going to pay for this? We're at home a lot more. There's a lot more electricity. I need something to do that could kind of pay those bills. So I started a small t-shirt company.
That is such a hustle.
Yeah, it's called T-Jam Goods. And it's an Etsy store that does like a lot of pop culture based stuff.
So you make the designs and then you sell them?
Yeah, it's like it's automated. You know, you order it on Etsy, sends it to the manufacturer, it gets shipped to the person.
Damn, that's pretty fucking solid.
Yeah, man. So I'm doing that for 6 or 7 months now. I got about 500 sales so far. So
damn.
Yeah, man.
I guess that paid your electric bills.
Yeah, they paid my electric bills, which then helped me get a house, which is fucking crazy to think about.
So your clothing company helped you get a house.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking great for a COVID hustle. Look,
man, you got to make it happen. I know it's a weird thing to say, but like, you know, you got to be transparent about that kind of stuff. I don't know if anybody would ever. Yeah. So like the hustle that became a hustle to, you know, just pay the electricity bills, help my wife and I move into a house. It didn't pay for the whole house, but it helped with the down payment. So, you know, you come up with, like I said, I'm a utility person. I think about a thing that I need to do, and then that leg that I got cut off, I feel the peg. That peg is whatever I want to use the utility for at the time. I know that sounds weird, but like that's the way that I think about.
None of this sounds weird to me. It might sound weird to other people, but I live my life super similarly. I needed to meet people, so I started doing interviews.
Shaboom.
And it worked out really well. I happened to be doing an interview format that apparently some people fuck with. It's nice. It's lovely. I say that because nobody's complained after like my interview was shit from the interviewee perspective. I mean, maybe a one tweet didn't like it, whatever. But like, people seem to act like, nah, your shit's different. I don't know. You hear somebody go, your shit's different at 50, 60 times. You go,
yeah.
Utilitarian kicks in. You're like, maybe there's something here that I'm doing that other people.
Is that the voice you used? Is that the E where you're like, maybe this? Like it's
in
like
my head. I don't know. It's my like, you know, my Jewish thinking voice. Like when I get into my like, you know, like super like mensch mode. It's what it is.
I get what you say.
But like sometimes like, yeah, like it's to be like 100% serious. Did I picture my life as this? No. Do I want to be spending like as much time streaming live to the internet as I do when it's beautiful outside and people are like outside in the hot sun and I'm inside in the hot, not sun, but still hot? Like, nah, like it's not like ideal, but there's also like a really big need for like English media in Montreal. It doesn't
wow.
exist unless we make it because of language politics that are comparable to all kinds of other discrimination issues, but not the same because it's language, which is a lot more solvable than other kinds of things. But it's like to the point where they're trying to restrict, or I don't know, they may have done it where like the doctors don't have to give you medical help in English. In Montreal, city of 4 million people and heavy tourism. It's kind of whack, no?
That is super whack, man.
Anyway, nobody's talking about it because it's like weird that none of us do. But like, there's a lot of weird shit that goes on with language politics in my city where English people don't have like a sense of self-esteem and ability to accomplish unless they leave here. Like, there's this sense that you have to leave here to succeed. So to like survive and thrive as an Anglo media person in the city, to me, is like one of the most important things. I don't care how the media plays out. I don't give a fuck. Rapping, fucking pot, whatever. It's just important to be English and win here.
Right. Wow. Language politics, man. That's incredible. That's incredible that I did like. It's incredible that I'm hearing about it. Not incredible that it's happening.
No, I know, but it's also like, it's what have we done wrong that you don't know about it? Like, I started thinking about that recently. Like, I don't want to bring it up all the time because like most people don't really want to talk about Quebec's language politics. Fair enough, but at the same time, like as a scene, as a culture of people, how have we like done so bad to reflect the fact that maybe like this issue is valid enough to complain about? Like they're denying medical, like, yo, my mom's, if she has a medical issue, might need a translator. That's fucking crazy to think about for me, but she's too old to learn to speak French fluidly to learn medical jargon.
Jesus, that's rough, man. Hopefully that changes.
It's not. It's gonna get worse. Way fucking worse. It is. Jeez. Dude, they're doing shit like they passed laws. Again, I don't know if these are passed or in the progress of passing, where like, so check it right now. If you want to go to school in English in Quebec, your parents had to go to school. Like, to go to high school and shit in English, like, I could go. I mean, if I have children, they can go because I went to school in English, right? So everyone else has to go to French school. The French school system that they fully controlled the curriculum in. Then they did some funny shit where post-high school now, the English post-high school education systems can only accept a small percentage of French students. So if you think about what they're doing, is they're taking all the immigrants and forcing them through a French high school education system. And everybody knows universities are kind of brainwashy these days. So you have this whole like way of taking an entire immigrant force, moving them through an education system, and assimilating their children to this pro-francophone culture. And this is really happening. I'm not being hyperbolic. I fucking wish I was. But like, nobody cares. And the other part of it is, where's the English media at to tell you about it? It doesn't exist here. Trust, when it's an election time, we all bust out the Google Translate, because otherwise there's no fucking way. All the articles are in French.
Do you speak French at all?
Good, but not like political pundit good.
Right.
I mean, I'm like what I call functionally bilingual. In your part of town, I'm fluently bilingual. In my part of town, they speak really fast and use a lot of slang, and I'm not great at that part.
Oh, wow.
So like,
damn, man.
I don't know. Like, you have to speak French to work properly. Like, I have to be able to, like, there's a couple of people that I know at work where if I don't at least start the conversation in French, they won't even proceed the whole way down the path with me, right? Like, if I start in English, it's different. My girlfriend just said that she read an article today that was discussing how the younger generation feels so disconnected from these old generation language laws. But the government just doubles down on it, because Montreal is like a zone, and then there's the rest of Quebec. And when you look at the voting map, it's like apparently New York goes through the same kind of thing, where there's New York City and then there's the rest of New York. Yeah. So it's like that kind of shit.
Jesus. I mean, so with all of that's, I was going to use another pun, Holden. I'm not going to lie to you.
You can pun it up, my guy. It's fucking
okay.
ridiculous.
Here we go. Let me start it all off. I appreciate you telling me about this stuff. You should try to speak up about it in your music, so that you'll be holding them to a higher standard.
Hey.
Okay.
I like that. I mean, I did it one time right before an election, and I felt cool. But then I didn't do it again. Like,
sorry.
No worries at all, man. But I didn't do it again because I guess life moves on, blah, blah, blah. You don't really think about it when you're here. Sometimes it's the kind of thing where you don't really... Because not my whole world's English. It's online. It's interconnected. I can very much avoid these issues that affect other people. Plus, I got good enough at French that it no longer affects me. Shit goes down.
Wow.
Moi, je peux parler en français n'importe quand. You know, I can just flip.
I need to learn French, man. I really want to learn.
Girls apparently like it a lot, and they like it if you have a shitty French accent with a lot of effort.
Oh, wow.
I'm not talking about like English girls. I'm talking about Quebecois ladies.
So if I try to double down right now and try to learn it, how quickly do you think I could be at least? Because I've been really I was trying to do it during the pandemic.
How much effort are you going to put in? If you like put in
probably about an hour a day. Probably about an hour a day.
Probably do it in 6 months.
Okay.
Like if you really put a focused hour a day into French, you're never going to be like fluid, but you'll be good enough to impress people on effort, and you'd be able to survive. Like you'd be able to get away with impressing 80% of the strangers in Montreal and they're not giving you a hard time, but there'd still be that 20% where it's not good enough. And I
want to be able to go to Paris and talk to people, because the last time I went,
they don't think I speak French. They think I speak some dirty French that is completely different.
Really?
Bro, this language shit is deep. I used to do customer service, right? Like straight up on the phones. And I would answer the phones with my Quebec shit. And it was bad Quebec shit. And the Parisian people, especially the Parisian people, are so snooty about like the French that they would act like I wasn't speaking French.
Oh, man.
And it was like, this is some real shit. Anyway, so when you were talking about your like language divides, I'm like, bro, that's my whole life is language.
Yeah, man.
There's a fact in Quebec that your last name almost guarantees to determine how likely you are to be a CEO. As in, if you have a French last name, you get to be in the club, and if you don't, you just don't. And I have a French last name by accident.
Oh, wow.
I'm mad English though. I'm never gonna get high enough in the club, but I will get more callbacks on a CV shit. Like all that racism things, like that's real about like French last names here, and they documented it and they proved it, and then nobody gave a shit.
How come every place but the United States says CV? Every place besides the United States.
Oh, because curriculum vitae. We're not afraid of Latin terms, so curriculum vitae is not scary.
Yeah.
And y'all like Latin terms are like, oh no, that's so British, and damn, we gotta be mad different with our no U's in our word like favor. I'm like, why don't you put the U in? It looks less flavorful. You know what I'm saying? I never understood it. Why do you guys use Fahrenheit? That doesn't make sense to me. Fahrenheit's the weirdest shit in the world. The whole rest of the world uses this one thing, and y'all jump on this next shit.
Yeah, I mean, have you been to the United States? I mean, I feel like the standards are just what they are. They're like, we don't want to be like anybody else.
I've been to Plattsburgh, New York.
Okay. Is that the only place that you've been?
I technically was in JFK.
I don't know why I'm pointing down like hell.
It's down for me. It is down for me. It's up for everyone else. But just for context, Plattsburgh is basically Canada's shopping mall. That's why it exists. Okay. It's a border town thing. It has a couple bars. I know that because we tried to go out at night in Plattsburgh. But basically, it's got the Kmart, which is exciting. And I mean, this is like a while ago. It's got the Kmart. It's got the American McDonald's. It's got the American KFC. You know what I'm saying? Like and it's got all the fucking shopping malls. Bro, the first time you walk into a U.S. soda pop fucking like soft drink department and you just realize how many Mountain Dews there really are, it's a mind fuck. That's what Plattsburgh's for. It's so I drove Slim Jims.
I drove to Canada once. I drove to Niagara. I actually drove to Toronto.
Okay.
And I spent my 25th birthday with my mom and my sister there. I drove from Baltimore all the way up. And I haven't been since. Man,
I would if you come to Montreal but you know people, is blessed.
Maybe Tizzy and I could come visit you. it's a lot harder to get into Canada now, right? I feel like it's
Well, once they open the border, which come on, give it like 3 months and we're all vaccinated.
the
Yeah,
border's still closed.
I don't know if it's closed, but like,
Probably still is though.
but basically, like we're at the point where most of us are first dose vaccinated, and we're almost on route to second dose vaccination. And then, are you kidding me? You are gonna watch the most pull your pants down citywide tourism campaign efforts you have ever seen happen in your life. Imagine what cities are gonna try to do to get you to want to come to their city now for the like.
Yes.
Bro, this is gonna be it. Like, yo, if you can't afford it, find a way, because now is gonna be it. The one golden era of you can afford to go there.
It feels like it, man. Like the campaigns are gonna be crazy. It's gonna be like, "Hi, I'm The Rock, and and I really like Montreal." It's gonna be like that, man. Like I feel like it's gonna get to a point where like the desperation to get people into towns and to spend money because people lost so much money.
Dying.
Really?
I mean, we've been home and especially out in the curfew for like 6 months, and then everybody's work from home, right? So most of our downtown office real estate is gonna be offices. Let's be real. Damn. Like that's what the fuck was happening there. And yo, nobody's going back to work. I mean, you will sometimes, but like, come on, you're not gonna. Like, how are you gonna get me to give up 20% more of my time for you? Is really the question you're asking everybody, because that's travel time. It adds an additional 20% to my life. So now that I've been given that back, it's a lot more like, I mean, like, without being like cold or whatever, in case any boss watches it, but like, it's gonna be a little more than like, nah, I don't think it's worth it for me to go back to the office 5 days a week on the same salary.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
The value
it changes things, man.
Because man, I can do things like, oh, man, my 6 to like 8s are great now. 6 to like 8:30. Yo, man, I became a bit more of a morning person once traffic was no longer in the morning.
It changes things, man. You having to deal with traffic is just it is the great depressor. Like you know about the Great Depression. Riding traffic for an hour and a half back and forth can really play on your sanity.
Especially when like you were supposed to be there at a certain time. And then like some shit like a snowplow appears. And it's like, oh man, it's terrible stuff. I'm not a fan of it. Man. But now, yo, the meeting's at 9:30. I'm on the Zoom call at 9:29.
Right on time.
You know what I'm like? It's beautiful.
Right on time.
Even with this interview shit, I was trying to do it in person, and let's be real, nobody wanted to come to my crib. And when they were in my crib, they were a lot more cognizant of time. There is something about sitting at home in front of a comfortable setting that makes you be like, I mean, come on, it's not like I have to go anywhere. I'm already home. And then these calls got way longer, and the interviews, like, it gets to a point where, like, I'm like, nah, none of y'all are smashing that record unless I'm in the mood now. Because, like, bro, they pushed it as far as 5 hours.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that on a work night. There's no fucking way. But they've done it on a Saturday. But it's like, it's pretty incredible to just think about how much this like work from home is. But with that, who the fuck's downtown? Like during the day, like everything's more expensive. So I guess young people, but nobody was really, there's no activities. You're not really allowed to hang out with people. So if nobody's working and nobody's allowed to congregate and the malls are closed, what the fuck is downtown? It's just a place that nobody needs to go to anymore.
Damn.
Yeah, that's going to be the big election debate for us because it's an election year. It's not like, I don't know about how much people care about that, but y'all, Montreal should fucking care. It's an election year is all I'm saying. Because it's going to be big. It's going to be like, it's going to set a tone for 4 years of post-COVID.
Damn. That's nuts, man.
Yeah.
You taught me a lot about Montreal. I knew nothing, and then you've educated me.
That's real cool. There's a lot of beautiful shit, though. Don't get me wrong. I want you to know that it is, if you're going to come somewhere in Canada, don't even fuck with the next places, because Montreal's where it's at. You know that, because it's mad fucked up.
I would, though. I would. It sounds dope, man. Like, I don't remember much about my trip to Toronto, but I remember the feeling of, like, this is different, and I enjoyed it.
I remember that about Plattsburgh. American
You're like,
shit. I remember it because your stores were open past 5 p.m. on a Saturday, and that fucked me up because there's some antiquated law over here that's a real thing. I was was like, stores can be open.
Shops close after what?
We close at 5 on a Saturday and Sunday. No lie, most of the stores, unless it's like a pharmacy or whatever.
That, I've been to like, that used to be a thing. Yeah. I could definitely remember that being a thing like in the 90s. Like it felt like Sunday things were closed, but not Saturday. 5 on Saturday?
I don't know. We have fucking parishes, dude.
Damn. See, so Montreal's super Catholic, right?
No.
No, what is it?
Super French. In fact, you're kind of like
just
anti-religion. I don't know. Montreal is to Montreal is to Quebec as like Hong Kong might be to like China. Is a better way to put it.
I get what you're saying.
And then Quebec is like the mainland, and it's just all around us. But like, I mean, yeah, it's French Catholic on theory, but then they went like all super separating church and state for a long time, so it's hard to say where the fuck anybody's really at. But let's say Catholicism is the old people and the young people is agnostic.
Gotcha.
Kind of like the rest of the world, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, not many people give a shit about Montreal, to the truth of it, and maybe I don't do a good enough job advocating it. Usually I wait till it's been, like, deep into the interview to really start fucking pushing on, like, talking about shit. But, like, yeah, no, I mean, I realized recently how little we talk about it in general. Not just, like, you, but, like, me and my peers rap about it, all this shit, so it's just fascinating. I mean, but then it's like, we think about Baltimore, and you literally talked about bullets. And I'm like, bro, French and English versus bullets. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's in the back of our mind, too.
Yeah. I mean, hearing and seeing them can do something to you, Like, I think what was interesting about my childhood and my experience with that sort of stuff is, like, I always felt safe in the house. My parents made me feel super safe in the house. It was just the trips to school, the trips back to school, the weekends. You had no control over what was happening around you. So you saw and heard a lot of crazy stuff. So, I thank my parents for keeping me as safe as they could, All
right. So with the TV, you have the T-shirt shit going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still back with music? Because I saw Catch the Fade just dropped the track.
Yeah, so we took during COVID, we were putting out a song a week for a couple weeks, and called Catch the Fade Can Rap, or Catch the Fade Raps. That was like the Yo MTV Raps logo sort of thing. And since then we also put out a song with King Los. But we haven't put anything out in a while, but we're actually starting the process of making new stuff. I love working with Tizzy. Just COVID has kind of fried my brain in that department. I've been creative, but the music hasn't been quite as frequent. But we did do a lot during COVID, and we're gonna get back in the studio super soon. I can't wait. I cannot fucking wait.
Nah, it'll be amazing when people able to meet up with people in real life. Like,
yeah,
it's
man,
gonna be big, I think, for
seriously.
A lot of people's energies. So yeah, what else do you have coming up in the next little bit that people could watch for? I know your podcast, you had your 300th episode. Is that
300th episode? Yeah, so we're doing Movie Schmovie. That's on YouTube. We also do a spin-off Marvel discussion show called Marvel Schmarvel. We're now talking about Low Key right now, which just started, last week. Super excited about the new episode this Wednesday. What else is going on? I've been doing like Zoom comedy, but I think that's coming to an end, and I'm gonna try to do some stuff IRL, which is
this comedy. Okay, what's the issue with Zoom comedy? I have a theory.
The audience. I mean, but also like, it just doesn't feel the same. Like there's a flow of energy that's happening when you have people around. Like, you can hear things, you can see things.
Can you see your audience on your Zoom?
You can, but it's not.
No, but like is your audience like other comedians and shit, or is it like an actual audience?
So I've done a couple styles. The one I went to had actual audiences, like audience per se, like a lot of people were on the screen, which was fun. And then they would unmute it for laughs, and then it just got kind of messy. But the audience, man, that give and take, that tug of war that you're having with the audience, I really miss. You can't really replicate that in Zoom quite as well.
I feel that a lot, actually. As much as I talk my shit about Zoom being almost good enough, I haven't actually done any effort to perform my music live to the internet, even though I could have been doing like weekly concerts. I mean, I got busy, but I actually realized I have to memorize my songs again, get to back in that point for like live and whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, no, I wasn't that into live music, where it's like, it's okay, and I'm gonna do more of it. I got more into writing music live because that felt more like fun.
But yeah, that's dope.
But like the part where we were ciphering live was blessed, because you were looking at a bunch of rappers, and if you think about a cipher, that's all you were doing anyway. You're just fucking looking at a bunch of rappers. So it was that was the right energy. Oh, I don't really need to hear you. It's good enough. You know what I'm saying? It's good enough. You can mute for that, and it's still fire for me. And so that has been really like amazing. But when I think about it, like to go spit my track at that, nah, it's not nice enough, because I have that memory to fall back on, and that's what I want. I want to chase that high, because that high is still really good.
Yeah, that live, it's nothing like the live audience, man.
And
it's nothing like it.
And I could deal with low scale. It doesn't have to be fancy. Just give me an audience, not my peers. I don't want to do a show to my peers. I know what it is, but it's like, man, we've all been talking. Hell, some of you may have been on the album, kind of thing. It's like, nah, we did all. I want to go perform to strangers. I want to see people I don't know that are like, wow, your shit's good. And I'm like, thank you, sir, who I'll never speak to again.
Yeah, that's the best, man. That's the best.
Fair enough. So you did Zoom comedy. You're gonna migrate back into real comedy. Good question, actually. Would you like to collab with Ill Conscious?
Ill Conscious? I don't know if I've heard Ill Conscious. Have I heard Ill Conscious before?
Sir Tizzy's answer is, I would actually, but it depends. From Baltimore. Yeah. He's from Baltimore.
Oh, have I heard Ill Conscious before? I don't think I've ever heard Ill Conscious. No offense to Ill Conscious.
You're like, okay.
I don't want to. I'm not saying it like the way that two rappers beefing with each other. Oh, like when you ask. Hold on, ask me again if I would collaborate with Ill Conscious.
Would you collaborate with Ill Conscious?
Who? Ill Conscious? Who's that? Like, there's not that kind of beef. Like, I don't know this person. No. I love that. By the way, like, people talk about people being tough. I think that's the funniest diss you could ever do to another human being on earth. If it could be your family, they're like, you know, is Aunt Geraldine gonna fix the tuna casserole? Who? I don't believe in her. Fuck her. Geraldine? She got bad wigs anyway.
That is fucking amazing. Sir Tizzy's like, you have. I fucking showed you him, but you don't remember. And that's why Sir Tizzy's incredible. Shout out Sir Tizzy, because this wouldn't be happening without Sir Tizzy.
Yeah, man. He's my good friend and collaborator.
He's going to send you some shit later. I just fucks with him because Flacco fucks with him. So if Flacco fucks with him, I fuck with him. I mean, it was that simple to me. And then I interviewed him, and now I'm like, well, I really fuck with fucking Sir Tizzy now because he's just amazing. And we're sitting there, and he's like fucking... I think he burst into happy tears at one point. And I will never forget that. Yeah, like, some shit happened, and he started crying for a solid minute in happiness. And I don't think I will ever forget that moment, because, like, I mean, like, that was impactful on those emotional soft levels and shit.
This isn't a real word, but that's the hoest thing I ever heard of in my life. If you could just send that message to him. You crying in that interview is the hoest thing I ever seen, Tizzy. You like, oh, I love my life so much. Like I laughed.
I mean,
I laughed. I was like, ah. I laughed at him. I laughed at him.
It was a good minute of it. I was like,
I laughed at him. I was like, who cries? Who has emotions? Who is that? Not my cousin. And then I spit on the ground.
Yeah, that was amazing though. That was unforgettable moment.
No, that's dope though. Like he really does have like a real, I don't know, man. Like it's hard to describe. Like he's a tough dude. Like don't give me like he has a toughness to him, but like
see, now I gotta slap your ass.
There's a real like a real. God, I don't want to use this word sweet, but like there's a sweetness to him, man. Like it's like a real
Surtees. You were kind of sweet for like what 3.5 hours straight.
Yeah, you kind of sweet. No, what I mean is like
no. I mean, my girlfriend made comments about how sweet Surtees was after.
Oh, he's a good dude. Like there's like this thing that parents try to, I don't know, try to beat it out you. Not physically, but like this like imagination and enthusiasm. Not your parents. The world tries to do that to you. Tries to kind of beat that out of you. This like childlike thing that we all had when we were kids. And we connect because we both kind of have that. We kind of have like this like optimism that you don't really see in a lot of people, because you want to win. You want people to win. You want people to do well. And he has a passion about everything he does that's palatable, man. Like it's like a real thing that you can't help but feel it. Like he'll tell you something like, for real, let's do it right now. Like what's happening? It's just, that's a good skill. That's a good skill. And despite him crying, hoeing on camera, just being like, oh, I really do value.
It's amazing
that sort of thing.
I just like. It's out there on the internet for anyone who wants to see it. You do have to sit through it.
Yeah, if you want to see my flesh and blood be weak for 2 minutes straight, you watch that interview. You watch him break. You watch him break. You watch that.
It was so heartfelt. There was a bunch of people there. It was a good interview.
Damn, man. Did he shit himself too? Because I feel like that was a part of it.
My girlfriend's like, well, I cry all the time for a million reasons, so don't feel bad, Tizzy. Thanks, baby.
Yeah. No, I get it. You get to talk about something enough, it'll make you cry.
Well, it was just like you just kept getting wins on the fucking call, and I'm like, man, I mean, that's dope.
Yeah, he's a good dude, man. Like he's I think he's hitting his corner. Like he's always been an incredible lyricist. He's hitting his shit where like I don't think that many people can fuck with him. Like it's like a real thought in my head when I listen to him rap. I'm like, there's so much skill in the way he put this verse together. I don't think that many people can mess with that.
I really fuck with her, Tizzy.
Once more people hear it, it's kind of hard to get your stuff out there. We're like pushing our stuff up in the world where like there's a million artists doing a million things at the same time, and we don't have a TikTok dance. So
man, that's all misconceptions. It's all collectives.
Okay.
There's no other answer. Right. It's always been collectives. That's just a label. A label is a fancy way of a collective. It's just a better machine. But really, if you look at all those TikTok dances, it's the people who start it. I guarantee you it's a collective. You really run this shit? Really?
So you're saying they're industry plants? Is what you're saying.
I'm saying there's 7 or 8 14-year-olds with nothing better to do that squatted up and replicated the business models of success and engineered it themselves so that they can make bank at 14. But they don't really care about making bank. They just want more followers than the other 8 kids down the street. So think of it more of like a battle-esque perspective of competing for social media clout.
Damn, man.
It's
somebody ever say something to you and you just like, I never thought of I never thought of that. I never thought about all of that stuff. Yeah
man, it happens to me all the time. Like when you brought up the vacation thing and racisms and how I should be real, like don't do that on vacation.
yeah don't do it, man.
I mean, I don't do that shit, but like, it's like I want to be extra cautious of the don't be that white moments.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, so I do feel it, but I think a lot of people misunderstand it. But like, if you look at it, like, yo, I started this cipher thing, and we're trying to like manipulate this situation into a cultural movement, like this alternate Montreal shit. Like, it's lifestyles, right? So my lifestyle is appealing to X number of people out there. And then you add in the subscription model element, and fuck sales. Retail is pointless unless you make cool shirts. But if you were to be able to do your shit on a subscription, you'd just make so much more, because you have zero effort in like the ongoing costs of trying to acquire those same customers over and over again. They're locked in. All your efforts are on that effort's put onto new customers. So you're basically continually growing, but you're keeping and stacking year over year. So if you can find a way to subscription model anything you're doing, it's more money. But then, yeah, so you kind of take that version and you bring in the niche lifestyle, and you take your squad of people who are all similarly people. And let's be real, and I talk to you, when I talk to Exoskeleton, when I talk to Sir Tizzy, like there's like this commonality, energy that bonds you guys together. So you find the next 4 or 5 people, you rep a thing, you make it bigger than yourself, so it's a movement that other people can be a part of, and then you make it accessible in some way, and then with web traffic comes monetization.
That is, in summation, I'm not doing enough.
The problem is actually not that we're not doing enough. It's that we're not delegating enough things we need help with.
All right.
Because the truth is you can't do it all alone. And that's where
There's
collective comes in. And so we all face this thing. I find like if we talk about the not made it seen problem, it's that everyone's so busy trying to replicate Russ and these like one-man operations, except realizing that frankly we can't. We're not them. So it's probably better to get a team. Like, yo, I couldn't do this alone. There are other people involved that help me maintain the pace. Like, the reality is, if I'm this guy, I also can't do everything else.
Right.
And as time goes on, it's like I have to actually expand the more you don't see them roles. And that's another thing we fail at. Support staff. Nobody thinks about hiring a person to upload your videos.
No.
We don't even budget that shit.
Because it feels like something you could do yourself.
Can't, man. I'm drowning.
But
I might upload some weeks 20 videos, 30 videos. Now I'm doing TikToks and Instagrams and shit. I'm like fucking drowning in posts on a weekly.
Yeah,
for real, dude.
That's a lot. Maybe you should hire somebody. Or do you have somebody already?
I have people helping me with some shit now to a point where it's manageable. Okay. But yo, who can afford it? Yo, there's no ROI. You can't just hire people and not make anything back on this.
That's true, man. Fiverr helped me with a lot of that stuff. Like for things I couldn't do. Fiverr, man.
My plan is to go hang out in parks and be cool enough to attract young people who have pipe dreams.
That's the best. That's how it works, man. You connect with people who do not know their value yet.
That's not it, because that's a mistake. Don't make that mistake. They all know their value. They just know you know how to get shit done more efficiently than them, and that you know more people, and that just be old. Be old and acknowledge that now being young is the new old.
Damn. Bars.
Nah, man, I'm just fascinated by it. Like, yo, young people can't execute like I can execute. I can just go like, bro, I got an idea and it's alive. But I have shittier ideas than a lot of them.
There was a man that had an idea. He said, look, I want to make computers that cost a lot of money. He had a dream. And his name was Steven. And his dreams came true. So like if his dreams can come true, why can't mine?
They can. But the real truth is they probably can when you can tie it to a cultural lifestyle.
That's true, man.
Like you have pop art, that's what they're called. The little fucking plastic things all over your room. It's Signal versus
first, let me clarify. These are my wife's. She's a heavy duty Harry Potter fan. These are all Harry Potters. It's fucking Dumbledore and My wife is huge into these things.
That's fair. I was like,
Yeah.
man, it just signals so
These are
much.
not mine. Yeah, these are all hers.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I can't stop it, man.
Those are amazing.
Yeah, she
But
has
like,
a ton.
so like even take that. There's so many other people that are in that universe. So you find those kind of cultural norms, which I think you've been repping Baltimore since time. So be like the older Baltimore guys.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know it sounds weird, but
No, I know what you're saying.
I'm like, okay, I'm 33. That means that like young people fuck with me in certain contexts. Dudes, it's
Right.
gonna be a hard sell. Girls, well, depending on how I present myself, it's not a hard sell. I just have to look like I have my shit together. And then I started realizing I just gotta like act like I'm a dad. Like just act like I'm a dad as much as I can. All that dad joke shit, all that dad shit I see everywhere. I'm like, yo, girls eat that shit up. I'm gonna go be the most dad, non-dad I can be.
You teaching me something new, man. I've been out of here for a couple years on my girl.
I'm
So
not even
I don't know.
single. I mean, I'm still with her. I just pay attention to the guys
So
at work and how the young women treat them. They treat the dads.
literally, when I look at other
away.
women, I blink. There's like something happened, man. I think I was programmed in my sleep. I don't even any woman that's on the radar to be like a possible I don't even. She starts like,
yo, dude, I just thought it was interesting to watch people at work. You just watch how they flirt at work, and I started noticing that the guys who are like super, I love my wife and kids, got the most attention.
Oh man, because you want to take it, because they want to take it,
and they know that they never will, and it's like, okay, bring that to music, bring that to your community. That's an energy, and there's no way that you're saying I want to remain faithful but attractive and unavailable. That's a move.
Damn.
I swear I thought a lot about that particular element. I had to convince my girlfriend this was a good idea. She's on board.
That's dope, man. Look, if your wife supports you,
yeah, she's
your girl.
She hears every.
If your girl supports you, that's half the battle is getting a good team of people that support you, man. Because that
not quick efforts, dude. It took so long to convince her to get to a point where I could be this ludicrous about it on camera.
Okay. I get that.
You gotta build
it. Takes some getting used to.
It's like a house, right? My dude put it to me proper. If you build the foundation of your house right, and then you put up the fucking house, shit shouldn't be able to rock the house.
Yeah, that's true.
We're deep enough that the house should be able to withstand a little bit of like. I'm like, yo, listen, if somebody wants to go do some free shit over here because she think I'm fine, we should benefit off of this, not be afraid of it. And it's not true, just like one-sided. Yo, Bonnie, go do what you gotta do, girl.
Represent.
like there's all respect and boundaries and blah blah blah, but like,
yeah, absolutely,
man, if I can smile at somebody and my life gets better, I'm gonna do it.
I'm 200% behind this concept. So long as you don't have to, like, you know,
I'm not planning
eat butt or something like that. You know, just eat butt. You don't have to do nothing.
Honestly,
like that.
It's like a weird thing, though, right? Like, at a certain point, it's not like I'm just not young enough to just want to bang anybody that move by, right? Like, I'm a little bit past that in life.
That's a real thing, man. Like, you think about like learning new people. Like, have you talked to a new person? It's like learning their like intricacies and what they hate and love, and then you got to be around that person. Nah, bro. I love the relationship I have. I really do.
And you can act like it doesn't come with baggage to just smash and pass and whatnot, but so like so many now then it's like, yo, then you gotta now worry about shit like, is this chick gonna screenshot my dick pic and send it to the whole fucking world, Like these are. I want to be a person in the public and shit. I'm not private.
Yeah.
It's just not the same. It's simpler. And then if my girlfriend consents, whatever she consents to is all that's allowed.
That's dope. That's a good rule. That's a good rule, man. That's a good rule. I'm happy that you're happy because that makes me happy. Because good relationships are.
It's all about communication.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm like a project manager, and working between departments is really just about communication and then managing expectations. So since day one, I managed expectations. This is who the fuck I am, and this is what my life is gonna be.
Right.
And then she never left. We're still here. It is what it is.
I get that.
But yeah, I found out that a lot of people act weird. I've had guys be like flat out, Holden, you can't say this shit. Your girlfriend might find out. And I'm like, bro, you lie to your girlfriend? That's what I hear when guys say shit like that to me. But I realized that like people are really that uncomfortable about being honest about who they are with their partner, and it's astounding to me.
Yeah, man. It's scary. Like, I almost live too in my truth about who I am as a person. And, when I talk about things on stage, it can get real personal. And, I don't really talk about my relationship with my wife so much. We got married during quarantine, by the way. So like,
congratulations.
Thanks, man. So I went in the quarantine one status and came out married. In a relationship. I don't know why I said like with us. We were in a relationship and then I came out married. And I don't know how I'm gonna talk about my relationship now, like on stage. Like it's gonna be interesting. Or in rhymes. Like I think I'm just gonna be honest. I was like
writing love songs.
Yeah. You want me to just become ugly LL Cool J? You want me to just talk about my life
with it?
Okay.
I wrote the weirdest love songs. They're not like, I wrote a love song called Seduce My Girlfriend. It wasn't like what it was intended to be, but when we were listening to it after, she loves it because it's really just like, I want to fuck you, but like you have to seduce my girlfriend and convince her. That's a love song. It's just super left field.
Send me that song after we get off this call.
It's like not done yet, but done. It's like
okay.
No, I can send you a version, but it's not like
I would love to hear that, man.
Yo, I'm on some fucking weird shit with it. Actually, on that note, it's like 10:30. It's a work night. I think this conversation's wonderful. I would love to. We could still talk a little bit, but if we're gonna do that, it's probably a good time to wrap up the show part of it. I definitely want to talk to you again in the future. This is fucking great. I love your energy. But
thanks, man.
I really enjoyed this. I know we've just been shooting the shit for a while, and I'm totally fine with that. This has been wonderful.
This was fun, man.
This is the good ones last past 3 hours. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
With that, thank y'all who are still with us watching. Thank you, Sir Tizzy, Bonnie, everybody else. Shout out Cyberstorm 2000 and Rachel for following in them. Thanks everybody in the future watching this on the whatevers. Catch all the links to the the Ronald James fucking universe down below. I almost said Sir Tizzy because his name's over there. So y'all in the future can catch that. It'd be fucking wonderful. Make sure you show love. The dude's mad interesting, as you've seen, especially if you watch this fucking far. So shout out to you, person who got that far into a video on demand in this day and age. Holy shit. Anyway, before we go, my girlfriend wants to know what your favorite book is.
This is lately, this is so stupid. Ready Player One was probably that and the Never-Ending Story. Never-Ending Story is like my favorite fucking book.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And then Everyone Poops. Everybody Poops.
It's a banger.
The art in that book?
It's a banger. I don't know about the art, but I just mean the concept, the brevity of the writing. It's like a really poetic masterpiece if you think about it at a literary level. Nobody expected that answer, but it's still facts.
Everybody Poops is the book.
It is definitely dope. But yeah, so I'm glad we answered that. I appreciate y'all for real for being here. Special thanks to the patrons, Ismail, Get Out, Secrets Power, Jonathan Barnes, DJ Black, Hurricane, Linda Williams, Scribble, Dope Support We Do, Patreon.com/Behind That Suit, etc. On that note, we're going to start the raid to this awesome Existence 130 person. And live long and prosper, everyone.